battle. The mother of his 12-year-old son chose this time to offer her ex a 1-month court-ordered visitation with his son. The decision will cost Trevor Ariza between $1 million and $1.8 million in lost salary. Jared Max, Fox News.
An hour to the close on Wall Street, a rally. The Dow's been up over 200 points and the NASDAQ in record territory. Oil prices have been slipping after rising earlier, topping $41 a barrel. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for this afternoon, with a high getting into the mid-70s. We'll have winds out of the northwest between 5 and 15 miles per hour. Then for tonight, partly cloudy sky conditions, a low near 55. By Wednesday, sunshine, a high around 80 degrees. Thursday, sunny, high of 87. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 72.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. The Fort Dodge School Board member who came under fire for racially insensitive comments online has resigned. Matt Wagner's resignation was accepted by the Fort Dodge Community School Board at their meeting Monday night. Wagner came under fire after a social media post late last week that drew backlash from members of the community. APHIS Director Charles Clayton was outspoken about his issues with Wagner's comments over the weekend and called for Wagner to no longer be a member of the school board. The Fort Dodge Community School District released a statement Monday night announcing their intent to fill the vacancy left by Wagner's resignation. The statement says eligible electors of the district have the right to file a petition requiring that this vacancy be filled by special election and that petitions must be received by the board secretary within 14 days. The board intends to appoint someone to fill the vacancy unless petitioned otherwise. If interested in becoming a school board member, contact Superintendent Dr. Jesse Ulrich or Board President Stu Cochran. Unity Point Health Fort Dodge has started to ease visitor restrictions. A statement released by Unity Point Health Fort Dodge Monday morning says as the number of COVID restrictions lift across Iowa, Unity Point Health Fort Dodge believes we have the appropriate safety measures in place to keep our patients and staff safe while easing visitor restrictions. The following considerations are now in place for visitors. For clinical appointments, 1 visitor for adults and 2 visitors for pediatrics will be allowed. Adult inpatients will be allowed 1 visitor or support person at a time. Pediatric patients, 2 parents or guardians at a time. In the ER, 1 visitor or support person will be allowed, and that person must stay in the room. 4 people are allowed around the clock. They are encouraged to stay in the room. At the hospice house, 2 visitors total in a 24-hour period will be allowed. Clergy will be allowed for patients requesting clergy visitation for spiritual support, and in-person interpreters are permissible if deemed important for patient communication. For more information, go to unitypoint.org. In sports, St. Edmunds softball fell 5-3 at 9th-ranked Algona last night. Bulldogs scored 3 in the third to take the win. Cameron Etherington, the winning pitcher for Algona, throwing a complete game, striking out 10. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmunds. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
David Horowitz's new book about President Trump is out. It's called Blitz. In Blitz, Horowitz warns that Antifa wants to stop Trump and crush our freedoms. Blitz predicted that race would be a big issue, but Trump has a secret plan for the election. Mike Huckabee says if everyone reads Blitz, Trump will win. A #1 Amazon bestseller. Get Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to blitz411.com. blitz411.com.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents and Doug.
Check it out, Limu. Got a brand new motorcycle jacket and matching leather pants. Now let's go for a ride and tell everyone that Liberty Mutual customizes their motorcycle insurance. So you only pay for what you need. Oh my gosh, this leather does not breathe well. You can't suffocate in leather, can you?
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Get a customized quote at libertymutual.com.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau's helping you.
How do you like your burger? Do you like Swiss or cheddar, ketchup or mustard, double the bacon? No matter how you like to top your burger, everyone agrees that a really good burger should start with a really great bun. That's why the bakers of Village Hearth put so much care into making their natural buns. Baked with good stuff like toasted whole grains and natural honey, you're sure to find a variety that's just right for you. So no matter how you like your burger, Village Hearth has the perfect bun to build it on. Village Hearth Breads, baking our best for you.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
Well, that's correct. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and I suppose I'm going to have to talk about race again today because that's all anybody wants to talk about is race. Now, I don't want to talk about race because of, well, however gratuitous or self-serving this may sound, it is the truth. Because when I was a kid, I heard Dr. Martin Luther King say something that has stayed with me all these years. He said he looked forward to the day when his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. To my mind, Dr. King's words, noble words, have fallen on deaf ears. We are being judged by the color of our skin. George Floyd, in part, was judged by the color of his skin. That allowed that callous, unfeeling police officer to just kill him slowly. It's grotesque, of course. Since then, it appears that, yes, all white people need to evaluate themselves if you believe Russell Wilson and Megan Rapinoe. I'm actually a fan of Russell Wilson's. He's a great quarterback, very bright guy, quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks for a number of years now. Gosh, I can't believe how the time flies. Wilson can speak intelligently. Megan Rapinoe is just one of those people who's full of rage, and she snarls and she sneers and she makes accusations, and I frankly don't have any time for people like that. I'm past understanding those people. We must have reason in our country or we'll have nothing. We'll have war. We'll have war, and that's just the way that is. I hope that we can get by this all right. I don't know if our country can. We have weak leaders, and I'm not talking about Trump necessarily. Chuck Schumer, who gets excited about Chuck Schumer? Or Nancy Pelosi, that woman who shakes while she speaks. What is she, 80, 81 years old? Can we find any leaders under the age of 80? Okay, all right. You're going to tell me Biden's under 80. You're going to tell me Trump is, 73, 74? I don't know. But it's time for somebody younger than me, and I'm 68, to have a career in national service. I'm talking the presidency. Yes, I'm talking about somebody in their 50s being acceptable as a candidate for both parties. And by the way, as you know, I'm not much of a fan of the two-party system. I'm an LBJ and FDR Democrat, and neither one of those ideas or neither one of those people, I don't think, would be welcome in the Democratic Party today. Hell, Teddy Roosevelt isn't. Teddy Roosevelt, the great conservationist, the inspirational leader. It's to the man who's actually in the ring that the credit goes. Remember that great piece? That was Teddy Roosevelt. That was his mantra. That's what he lived by. He was a fine man, and protesters are trying to tear his statue down in New York City because it is a statue of Roosevelt on a horse, and right behind Roosevelt and the horse, they're not, facing the horse's butt or anything, but right behind is an American Indian, it looks like, a Native American, and a black person, black man. Well, because that appears to be subservient, those two minority groups appear to be subservient, the statue must come down. That is punk politics at its worst. That's punk politics at its worst. It's thuggery, and it seems like if we call it what it is, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. I call on everyone to evaluate what's happening in our country today. And yes, the George Floyd video, there's no going back from that. I cannot unsee that video. It will be with me forever. And I've only seen it once. It was gruesome and grotesque, and it was emblematic of a problem in our culture, a deep problem in our culture. That does not mean that only white people must evaluate themselves on a continuing basis, as Russell Wilson and Megan Rapinoe have suggested. First of all, white people must evaluate themselves. And if we're going to remove racism from our national character, white people do have to evolve. But anytime Russell Wilson and Megan Rapinoe put out this piece, and it's a great piece, you should find it online and read it. It's got Russell Wilson's imprint all over it. And again, I respect his intelligence. There's no doubt he's smarter than I am. But I will take exception to the fact that only white people need to evaluate their lives. I know this disturbs some, but there were how many murders in Chicago over the weekend? And we have a culture in the black community that thinks like this. One of the victims in Chicago was a 3-year-old little boy. 3 years old. And people were in the street shooting, maybe shooting as his father. His father was 27 years old, sitting next to his son. Now, I would think, obviously, the gunmen were probably shooting at the father and hit the little boy and killed him. And the father won't cooperate with the police. The father will not cooperate with the police. I suppose he's going to load his gun and go find the people who killed his son on his own. Or he might get shot himself. Who knows? But that is a deep separatist mentality. We do not recognize the United States as a legitimate country that has a law enforcement system that we need to take part in. We have our own country in a country, and when things like this happen, horrible things like this happen, we're not going to call the police. We're not going to call the white man. We're going to handle it ourselves because we're a nation. That's the Farrakhan message, by the way. So, disagree with me as you wish. And I have a tough time talking to white people right now because they're on fire with guilt. They can barely stand themselves. They can barely stand themselves. But of course, there's a little bit of Ayn Rand in me. I take responsibility for what I do. You know, that's more in line with thinking of the black people I've known. You know? The arguments, and it was a valid argument and a truthful argument, was don't judge an entire group by the actions of a few. That's what used to happen. If a black person committed a crime, well, it was all black people. That's the way they are. You know, I mean, it's ugly rhetoric to hear now, but that's exactly the way it was. I didn't believe it then. I sure don't believe it now. But most African American people I've encountered in my life speak for themselves. I mean, there is a strong identification with race and culture that I don't feel. I'm not part of the greater white culture, I guess. I understand, you know, Nevin Mulholland last Friday, here, just to give you some context. Nevin Mulholland last Friday on the sports show reminded me that there was a piece by Kyle Korver. Korver played for Creighton. That's Nevin's alma mater, of course. He's a big white guy, and he's been a solid player for a number of years. He wrote a piece about a year ago called Privilege. And Korver made me think differently. Rereading the Korver piece made me think differently. Korver said, you know, some of his teammates are more talented than he is, and they make more money. This is essentially what he said. And they make more money, and they're as law-abiding. But if anybody's going to get thrown face down on the street, it's not going to be Korver, it's going to be them. And you know, that's right. That's right. I had to stop and think about that for a long time, but, you know, police officers don't roll up on me, especially at my age. They did when I was a little bit younger and I looked suspicious. Those things don't happen to me. And they don't happen to white people. Ugly treatment of suspects happens to black people far more than it does white people. This is the way the piece starts, by the way. This is Kyle Korver, who was with the Milwaukee Bucks at the time. I don't think he is anymore. Maybe he still is. This is how this piece starts. When the police break your teammate's leg, you think it would wake you up a little. When they arrest him on a New York street, throw him in jail for the night, and leave him with a season-ending injury, you think it would sink in. You'd think you'd know there was more to the story. You would think. But no. I still remember my reaction when I first heard what happened to Thabo. It was in the 2015, late in the season. Thabo and I, this is Korver writing, Thabo and I were teammates on the Hawks, and we'd flown into New York late after the game in Atlanta. When I woke up the next morning, our team group text was going nuts. Details were still hazy, but guys were saying, Thabo hurt his leg during an arrest? Wait, he spent the night in jail? Everyone was amazed and confused, upset. Turns out, this young African-American man, Thabo, and I may be pronouncing his name incorrectly. If I am, I apologize. I'm not the basketball fan that Randy Koeman and Nevin Mulholland are. But this is a real story that happened to a real talented young man who really wasn't doing that much. He was just out on the town, being a young guy. When I was out on the town being a young guy, I made a fool of myself several times in taverns, in the street, God knows. And the police would come up to me and say, go home and stay there or we're going to arrest you. And I believed them. Go home and stay there. They didn't throw me on the ground, and they didn't throw me in jail. Not to say that I've never been in jail in my life. My mouth ran a couple of times when it shouldn't. And, wound up in the can a couple of times. Mainly on just for being a drunken fool. That's why I quit drinking years ago. I got tired of being a drunken fool. But this was not the case. Kyle Korver, I'm going to put this again on my Facebook page so we can read it. These are the sort of things that have to stop. The George Floyd thing, my God. Any city that is not outright banning the chokehold in any state, I don't know what you're thinking. I would take a look at putting a prisoner, and there are legitimate arrests, certainly. I mean, violent arrests. But I would think that putting someone on the ground for long periods of time in handcuffs on their stomach, that's a position that's difficult for people to breathe in. At my age, I'd have a terrible time. I have COPD and other things. I got my CPAP machine again today. I'm giving CPAP another try. We have to stop these things. We have to stop racist beatings, mostly by black kids on white kids. Anybody in Fort Dodge ever seen that before? Everybody in Fort Dodge has seen that or heard about it before. Just black kids out having a good time beating the hell out of a white kid. I'm not happy with that. It's wrong. And it's not racist or insensitive to talk about it. There's all these calls for honest conversations, but I guess there's just some things that you can't say. There's just some facts that you cannot speak about. Now, I'm close to several black people in this town. And I know, and I Roger Porter has straightened this up, and maybe previous chiefs of police got the ball rolling. Doty was a good man, certainly. Tim Carmody, couldn't fault him. But I know there are young black men who are harassed in this town. Harassed for their last name, maybe harassed for their past record. That's not what we have police for. It is not the job for the police department to find a crime so that they can find a reason to put someone in jail when they haven't really done anything. On the basis of who they are, what they might do. Finding silly reasons like, well, your license plate light is out. I mean, shut up. That's the worst reason in the world to conduct a traffic stop. It's the most obviously phony reason to conduct a traffic stop. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do this as a community service. Nothing against Roger Porter. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a dedicated man, a man of terrific character, and I think he's got an outstanding police force. But if I find any law enforcement people, and help me with this if you will, that are pulling a lot of young people over for a broken taillight, let me know. Let me know, because that's kind of a tactic. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Gas, Saturday at Come and Go in Ankeny, $1.74.
What now?
Gas price in Ankeny Saturday was $1.74 a gallon.
That's a pretty good price.
Yeah, and Fleeton Farm had it for $1.69.
Who did? No, I'm sorry.
Fleeton Farm?
Okay, Fleeton Farm had it for $1.69.
Yeah, so I don't know why it was so high.
How high are we in Fort Dodge?
Or $2.14.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, thanks for the information.
You bet.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I think my friend there may have been listening to a different talk radio show. I wasn't really talking about the price of gas. We have a very complex situation here. And now is the time. The George Floyd killing is the time to hash it out. It's not a time to grovel. It's not a time to berate and yell. Passion is allowed. Threatening and violence is not. And let's keep this going. Black people have a more than legitimate gripe. And yes, as a white person, I stand accused of not caring about it for many, many years. And if you asked me, I would have told you I was a very liberal, moderate guy on race relations. I guess I equated liberal or moderate with disinterested without even thinking of it. But I promise to stop doing that. This microphone is open anytime for anyone who would like to speak what they consider the unvarnished truth without interruption. Okay? I'm a talker. I like to ask people to clarify their point. But now is the time to let what many in our community feel are outrageous conduct, or what they think is poor treatment of their group. Get a hold of me at the radio station. There's no problem. I'll put you right on the air.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 2:30. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau coming up.
Want to have one more drink?
Sure.
Want to close down the bar?
Woo, yep.
You don't feel that drunk. Want to drive home?
Okay.
Want to possibly kill someone or yourself?
Wait, no.
Then leave your car at the bar and find a different ride home. You know there are apps for that now, right?
Yeah, I do.
With so many options out there for alternate transportation, why take the risk of driving impaired? You can worry about getting back to your car after you've sobered up. This message brought to you by the Iowa Department of Public Safety, Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
In the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. The Fort Dodge School Board member who came under fire for racially insensitive comments online has resigned. Matt Wagner's resignation was accepted by the Fort Dodge Community School Board at their meeting Monday night. Wagner came under fire after a social media post late last week that drew backlash from members of the community. APHIS Director Charles Clayton was outspoken about his issues with Wagner's comments over the weekend and called for Wagner to no longer be a member of the school board. The Fort Dodge Community School District released a statement Monday night announcing their intent to fill the vacancy left by Wagner's resignation. The statement says eligible electors of the district have the right to file a petition requiring that this vacancy be filled by special election and that petitions must be received by the board secretary within 14 days. The board intends to appoint someone to fill the vacancy unless petitioned otherwise. If interested in becoming a school board member, contact Superintendent Dr. Jesse Ulrich or Board President Stu Cochran. Unity Point Health Fort Dodge has started to ease visitor restrictions. A statement released by Unity Point Health Fort Dodge Monday morning says as the number of COVID restrictions lift across Iowa, Unity Point Health Fort Dodge believes we have the appropriate safety measures in place to keep our patients and staff safe while easing visitor restrictions. The following considerations are now in place for visitors. For clinical appointments, 1 visitor for adults and 2 visitors for pediatrics will be allowed. Adult inpatients will be allowed 1 visitor or support person at a time. Pediatric patients, 2 parents or guardians at a time. In the ER, 1 visitor or support person will be allowed, and that person must stay in the room. For surgical and procedural patients, patients will be allowed 1 visitor for outpatient surgeries. That visitor will have to remain in the patient's room during surgery. For end-of-life patients, 2 visitors or support people are allowed around the clock. They are encouraged to stay in the room. At the hospice house, 2 visitors total in a 24-hour period will be allowed. Clergy will be allowed for patients requesting clergy visitation for spiritual support, and in-person interpreters are permissible if deemed important for patient communication. For more information, go to Unity Point. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmund. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 2:35. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau is standing by, and we'll talk with Steve in just a minute. 71 degrees, kind of a nice day today. It was overcast earlier today, but we seem to have gotten straight around. But there will be showers and thunderstorms into the early evening. Otherwise sunny today with a high of 75. What a day so far. Tonight mostly clear with a low of 55. Wednesday sunny with a high of 80. Thursday sunny with a high maybe of 90. On Friday more rain, high 88. Saturday a chance of rain and thunderstorms, partly sunny with a high of again 90. On Sunday there's a chance of rain, partly sunny with a high of 90 once again. And on Monday, a 40% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly sunny with a high of 89. That's on Monday. Right now, again, 71 degrees. AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge Obituaries, brought to you this hour by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Melanie Gay Seward has passed away at the age of 57. Melanie Seward was from Fort Dodge, and she died on June 14th in her home. There will be a funeral service for Melanie Gay Seward, and that'll be held tomorrow here in town. Karen Fay has died at the age of 79. Karen L. Fay of Fort Dodge passed away Saturday at the Paula J. Baber Hospice Home after an illness, a short illness. Funeral services will be held Thursday at the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, Thursday from 1 to 2. That's Karen L. Fay, 79 years old when she passed. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:37 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 71 degrees. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau in 1 minute.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 3 1/4 at $3.25. September down 4 cents at $3.29. December corn down a nickel at $3.36 3/4. March down 4 3/4 at $3.48 3/4. July soybeans down 1 1/4 at $8.75. August down 3 cents at $8.72. September down 4 1/4 at $8.69 1/2. November down 5 1/4 at $8.74. July wheat closed up a penny at $4.86. Soybean meal down 20 cents a ton at $2.8630. June live cattle down 87 cents at $93.52. August up $2.07 at $97.20. August feeder cattle up $1.45 at $133.20. September up $1.40 at $134.47. July lean hogs closed up 7 cents at $46.90, and August up $1.40 at $52.50. From the Alpha Media Farm Desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
And this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. I have a member of the Webster County Farm Bureau here. He is past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, Steve Peterson of beautiful downtown Slifer. Steve, how's things?
They're going good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. We're going back and forth with a lot of rain here. Is that harming the crops, helping them? What's going on?
Well, the rain has kind of been a little bit patchy. We only in this area we only got about a half inch out of the whole last weekend. So,
oh really?
We probably got a little shorted on this deal, but it was welcome what we got. So hopefully, we'll be looking for a little rain here. Hopefully, coming up in the next few days or this weekend. So
you needed the rain.
Yeah, we were getting to the point where definitely the crops could use a drink. The tiles were still running slightly, so that tells me that there's still some moisture in the ground, but a little cooler weather and some moisture definitely helps things out. So the crops are most definitely in a growing stage right now.
Oh, they are. Is this the peak growing season for the crop?
Yeah, you're probably going to see the most visual change here in the next few weeks. Because corn's probably 3.5 foot tall, maybe even 4 foot tall in some areas now.
Okay.
You're going to see it. You're going to see it rush up to its maximum height. So it could get 7, 8, even 9 feet tall here in the matter of the next few weeks. So it's some of the most visual growing point or growing time for the corn. Soybeans were definitely also on the rise, and we'll hopefully see some of the rows closed in and shade out some of the wheat competition in the next few weeks.
Sure. So no problem with knee-high corn by the 4th, huh?
Oh, we're definitely above that, but we're quite a few heat units. Is how we measure kind of our status, and we're quite a few against last year, and we're actually just maybe a little shy of 2018, which was a pretty productive year. So,
all right.
All in all, we're doing pretty well.
Okay, that's excellent. I understand the Farm Bureau is appealing to state legislators for more aid due to the COVID-19 virus. Why is that?
Well, I think there's been several different programs for different, whether it's dairy producers and crop producers and animal producers. There's not a one-size-fits-all, and some of these things I believe need to be relooked at and see if the intent of some of the original programs actually met what they were intended to do. When some of these programs were rolled out, it was definitely unprecedented times. And some of this money seemed to go out pretty fast and loose. And, was it effective in what it was intended to do? So I think the conversation just wants to be had of, where we're at and, if some things got skipped over or, if we need to address some, future aid or what it can look like.
Steve Peterson's our guest at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Is there anything specific you're looking for, or the Farm Bureau is looking for, in regard to crop farmers, soybean and corn farmers?
Well, it's an ongoing thing, and it brings in the trade issues. It's such a volatile market right now. With you have the COVID, you have the trade, and then you just have the dynamics of a normal growing season. A good example of how explosive this market is late yesterday there was the trade advisor for this administration, that Peter Navarez. I listened to the interview later on because I really honestly haven't been watching a lot of the news.
Sure.
And I even went and watched his interview, and he kind of said something, and it basically was the extent that the China trade deal was done. It sounded almost like, we're giving up, we're pulling out. That sent the markets so upside down in the overnight trading. Everything was in chaos.
Oh, I bet.
This morning, they kind of walked back some of that language and re-clarified, I think, what he meant. And it moved the market so much. For example, Apple, which is, huge company, it moved that stock the equivalent of $53 billion in 24 hours.
Really?
So
how much?
$53 billion in equity. That stock moved by just that comment of that one person. So that's how volatile whether it's the stock markets, the grain markets, and of course in the overnight markets, the bean price dipped. Well, guess who came to the feed trough and bought some soybeans? China. I mean, they are very I get, if you're going to buy on the low. So I don't blame them for doing that. But that was just kind of I think a misinterpretation, or he was off script a little bit, and he said something that was completely interpreted wrong, and it moved the markets that much.
Wow.
Crazy times, I guess.
Yeah, if I had to depend on the market like you guys do, you farmers do, I'd drink in the morning. I swear to God. I'd have bourbon for breakfast.
Well, and that's the unusual thing that I think a lot of people, whether you're a few generations removed from the farm, you kind of don't realize how volatile farm incomes are and how much they depend on trade and markets and the weather. I was pretty frustrated with about every meteorologist over the weekend, because it seemed like the rains would get to us and they'd disappear. At least
Sure.
in my neck of the woods, and it was pretty frustrating. And of course Monday that's when we got all of our rain, and actually I don't think there was any even predicted for that morning. So just crazy times, but there's a lot going on and a lot of moving parts in things that are completely, you don't really time to agriculture, but they have a big impact in agriculture and the economy of the agricultural community.
All right, our guest is Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau, and of course, this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. I see that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is still, for some reason, trying to get rid of the pesticide dicamba. Now, the Farm Bureau, as we talked last week, as a matter of fact, we may have touched on it the week before, the Farm Bureau, in addition to the American Soybean Association, National Corn Growers Association, National Cotton Council of America, and the National Association of Wheat Growers and National Sorghum Growers, or Producers rather, have filed a brief supporting the EPA's request to deny the petition of the Environmental Protection Agency that seeks to ban dicamba. What in the, and I keep asking the wrong guy, I guess only the people on the Ninth Circuit and some environmentalists know the answer to this question. But I have searched, Steve. I've done my homework. I can't find a single damn reason. Maybe I'm not. I'm looking in the wrong places. I know.
Well, do a little clarifying on what you just said there. Now, it is being generalized that they're trying to, I believe the word, vacate the registration of dicamba. It's actually for some of the new formulations of dicamba. So it's not dicamba as a whole. It's a few formulations. One of them that's very popular, it's Extendamax. And basically what that is, a formulation of dicamba, which is a herbicide that's been around for almost 60 years. And it's less volatile, so it doesn't move with temperature and humidity. They're specifically targeting these new formulations and their volatility. The reason being is the dicamba crops pretty much came out in about 2018. So we've been a couple years, we've been using these crops and these herbicides, and there's been an increasing amount of claims, like on neighboring crops or non-target crops for the use of that herbicide. That's what it's specifically targeting. Of course, the Ninth Circuit came out with their ruling, not necessarily against the chemical itself, but just the specific label on these new formulations. Now, the EPA came out in response and basically gave instructions of where we're going from here and how to vacate this chemical, and which is consistent, I believe, in other instances where similar things have happened. And what that basically said, you cannot go and buy new product or new stock, but any product that was in the farmer's co-op, in the farmer's possession, and such after June 3rd could be applied to the language that was on the label. And the court, a different set of judges, upheld the EPA's directions that they interpreted for following the original Ninth Circuit's ruling vacating the label. So it gets a little complicated in the weeds, but that's, in a nutshell, the EPA came up with language that they believed would be consistent with their actions, and then the plaintiffs challenged that, but it was upheld in the court in the Ninth Circuit by a different set of judges. So it's kind of an ongoing deal. We're going to be coming up in the time frame or window when we're going to get out of when that stuff can even be sprayed here pretty shortly. So, and then the battle's going to begin if they can relabel this stuff and move forward.
That's interesting. Again, the answer to the question, why dicamba, from the other side is eluding me.
Well, it's because they feel that there was an unnatural or a high number of complaints, and the EPA did not do due diligence when issuing the rules on application of that particular blend of herbicides. Now, these same groups also have this language going on in a trait, or I think it's called a trait. It's called Enlist, and that's another around here. That'll be another soybean, and that's going to use a chemical 2,4-D and Roundup and Liberty, which is gluphosate.
Yeah.
So that is in the court too. Same plaintiff, same blueprint of how they're doing it, and it's kind of, they're not attacking the technology, they're attacking the labels, which it seems they've had some success now on the dicamba. So it's crazy in the court. The waters of the U.S. was a contentious item for a long time.
Right.
Now that's going to be, this administration has come out with new rules, and those go into effect next week, July 1st. And, of course, California, once again, they went to court to challenge it, and that was actually overturned in the current administration's was upheld. However, now a court in Colorado is challenging it. So, but I believe that's going to roll into effect on the 1st of July. So that's kind of another ongoing. And then another twist in a California court, and that has to do with Roundup. And they have now ruled that California, because there's no scientific data that Roundup and cancer are connected, they cannot label anything with cancer warnings in the state of California.
In California, wow, that's a big ruling, because all those Roundup decisions.
They're all in California.
All in California, right.
I don't know how that's going to play out with, the settlements and the court cases, but a judge in California has ruled that California cannot label Roundup as a potential cancer-causing product because there is no scientific connection between that. So,
well, really, the Roundup thing is a bunch of ambulance-chasing lawyers getting into somebody's deep pockets, in this case Monsanto, or what Monsanto used to be. And
Bayer now.
Yeah, it's Bayer now. And I wondered for a long time why this was not taken to the U.S. Supreme Court and taken out of these grasping people's hands in California.
That would be a legal question. I don't know, because it seems that there would have to be a contradictory ruling to get it to the Supreme Court to settle it. So I don't know. Maybe someday it will make it to that point, but anymore in the agricultural side, you need a very simple law degree just to follow along with what's going on. The danger, whether you're on the side of dicamba or 2,4-D or Roundup or whatever, the technologies that these companies are developing, if they get just beat up in court every time they do something, they're not going to develop these technologies. And ultimately, it's going to come back and hurt the producers. And, because some of these technologies have been instrumental in the increase of production of crops. So it could be challenging in the future if every little thing is litigated and challenged like it has been.
Yeah, well, you can count on it being litigated. I tell you, it's just insane. I mean, obviously, and I want people to listen to this. Obviously, there is a group of people who are opposed, and I think they're mainly in the West Coast, California and Oregon, Washington. Oregon, by the way, I used to have in-laws out there, and it's a very liberal state, as is the state of Washington, obviously. But there's a very influential group of people out there that don't like the way we farm in the Midwest. They don't like pesticides. They really are trying to build some utopian garden out of farming, and it's just ludicrous. But if you know the culture of the West Coast, you understand. I mean, they really think that consuming meat is evil and twisted, and there was a story in the Des Moines Register just the other day. This is what agriculture is up against. Even if we haven't followed agriculture here in Iowa, we've always assumed that agriculture was a positive, a good thing. We feed the world. We knew farmers, whether we were on the farmers or not, and they were our friends. We went to school with them, all these things. But that has changed in other parts of the country. And I'm glad that Steve Peterson's on and Greg Hora, and I will talk to as many farm groups. I used to love to talk with Dean Coleman. What a great guy Dean was. He passed away here last year. He was Mr. Soybeans. He was with the Soybean Association and had so much information in that head of his. But this is something we really need. It may not be as sexy as some of the other national issues that are getting us emotionally worked up these last several months, and I'm not saying those things don't need to be addressed. But this is a very, very local issue for us, and it's being talked about, and court cases are moving forward that affect us in other states like California, like Steve and I have talked. So, if you can, Steve, text me or email me those groups that are part of this lawsuit, because I have a feeling I have a feeling they're vegetarians and anti-meat people, and I don't know. Did you see that piece? We're not here to talk pork production. I'll do that with Greg Hoare tomorrow. But did you see that piece in the Register with this young man, very well educated, apparently thrown his life away and decided to sneak into pork plants here in Iowa and take videos and try to get these producers put out of business? I think that what a goal in life,
Well, and in Iowa for the last couple of years, the legislators been trying to. It's a balance between free speech and the rights that American citizens have, but also the rights of the businesses to protect themselves. And I think in its purest form, they're trying to protect the agricultural industry. I mean, we'll just say it as a whole, because it doesn't have to be just pork production, but they're trying to prevent or draw the line between if someone is trying to gain access, whether it's through fraudulent statements or however, to gain access to do harm to that individual or business, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a balancing act, and it's been coined the Iowa Ag Gag Law.
Yeah.
Because some people they view it as, well, they're trying to squash the opposition,
right,
and such. But its intent is and like I said, it doesn't have to be just animal production. There was it was probably 8 years ago or so. There was Chinese nationalists that were out digging up seeds in a seed corn field to smuggle the male and female genetics back to China.
Yeah, how did that case ever turn out? They had that one girl in jail for a while, and the Chinese were.
I don't know, but it doesn't have to necessarily be limited to animal production. I believe a few weeks ago, at the home of the people of Iowa Select, there was some people that broke in. They went out and they tried to do it was a sacrificial burial of some pigs in their yard, and all of those people were not from Iowa. They were brought in by different organizations to make a political statement. And
no, they're
you
not
know,
from Iowa, but they're indecent and vulgar. Steve, we're going to have to go to the news, and we'll be back with Steve Peterson of the Webster County Farm Bureau right after the news. It's 3 o'clock. Thanks for listening.
It's Everything Digital on the Kim Commando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Holding out hope for a vaccine. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. An optimistic outlook at a House hearing on the coronavirus response.
The government's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, told Congress several vaccine candidates are showing promise, raising his confidence one will be available by the end of the calendar year or early next year.
Although you can never guarantee at all the safety and efficacy of a vaccine until you actually test it in the field, we feel cautiously optimistic.
Fauci and other top public health officials on the coronavirus task force also say they have not been asked to slow down testing. More than 27 million Americans have been tested for COVID-19.
Fox's Jared Halpern. Multiple states and cities are tightening restrictions to deal with surging COVID cases, including Florida, which is closing bars and restaurants that don't comply with capacity limits. A mixture of entertainers, city and state leaders, and loved ones saying goodbye in Atlanta to Rayshard Brooks, the man shot and killed after resisting arrest by an officer who has since been fired and charged with murder.
I look at my grandbaby right there. She looks just like him. And when I look at her, I know that he's not gone.
Mother-in-law Rochelle Gooden offering thanks to everyone who's shown support for the family. Meantime, each side accusing the other on Capitol Hill of failing to negotiate on police reform. Democrats say there isn't enough support to get a Republican bill to the Senate floor tomorrow.
This doesn't finish until they say it's over. But if they won't even start it, that tells me that this is already over.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who authored the bill, has been urging support for a motion to proceed, which takes 60 votes. Democrats say the GOP bill isn't a good enough starting point, but Republicans say a version that passed the House goes too far. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of four is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Ahoy! Ahoy! Yoo-hoo! Ahoy! 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 Ahoy there! Ahoy! 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 In the name of the great Neptune! Ahoy!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered with basic plans starting at $100 a year. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Annual premium for a basic liability policy not available in all states. Prices vary based on how you buy.
A restaurant apologizes for turning away a black mother and child.
When Marcia Grant tried to eat at the upscale Ouzo Bay in Baltimore with her 9-year-old, she was told they couldn't because her son's outfit, athletic shorts, sneakers, and an Air Jordan t-shirt, didn't comply with the dress code. Grant, who's black, capturing the exchange with the manager on video, which also shows a white family allowed to dine there despite their son dressed in a similar outfit. The owner, the Atlas Restaurant Group, putting out a statement saying they're sickened by the incident and have placed the manager on indefinite leave. It's also revised its dress code to exempt kids under 12. Lillian Wu, Fox News.
One of 3 scheduled presidential debates is being moved after the University of Michigan dropped out of hosting in Ann Arbor, concerned about coronavirus as they try to bring students back in the fall. The October 7th debate being moved to Miami, where the mayor is implementing a mask rule because of a recent surge in COVID cases. The first debate is set for September 29th at Notre Dame. Some New York City luxury stores are using high-end safety measures as they welcome back customers.
Saks Fifth Avenue is reopening its flagship store in Manhattan. It will be using ultraviolet handrail cleaners on its escalators. A few blocks away, Tiffany will also reopen, pairing shoppers with a sales associate who will escort them around the store to maintain social distancing rules. Another Fifth Avenue institution, Bergdorf Goodman, will allow customers to enter with a private appointment. Bergdorf is owned by Neiman Marcus, now bankrupt. The New York Post says the company is in talks to close its new Neiman Marcus store at the Hudson Yards Mall in Manhattan. That space could wind up as offices for Facebook. Jenny Cosola, Fox News.
Wall Street rallies. The Dow's been up over 200 points for most of the day. The NASDAQ in record territory. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. An inmate at the Fort Dodge Correctional Facility has been charged with first-degree murder. On June 14th, 59-year-old Thomas Andrew Dulesky was found dead in his cell. Dulesky was serving a 45-year sentence for multiple charges related to sexual abuse and lascivious acts with a child. He had been incarcerated since 2000. Officials have released findings in the subsequent investigation, and they say that 44-year-old Eric Hall had been inside Dulesky's cell just prior to his body being found. Officials say Hall has admitted to killing Dulesky and is charged with first-degree murder here in Webster County. The autopsy determined Dulesky's cause of death to be strangulation with blunt force injuries to the head and was ruled a homicide. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. Unity Point Health Fort Dodge has started to ease visitor restrictions. The following considerations are now in place for visitors. For clinical appointments, 1 visitor for adults and 2 visitors for pediatrics will be allowed. Adult inpatients will be allowed 1 visitor or support person at a time. Pediatric patients, 2 parents or guardians at a time. In the ER, 1 visitor or support person will be allowed, and that person must stay in the room. For surgical and procedural patients, patients will be allowed 1 visitor for outpatient surgeries. That visitor will have to remain in the patient's room during surgery. For end-of-life patients, 2 visitors or support people are allowed around the clock. They are encouraged to stay in the room. At the hospice house, 2 visitors total in a 24-hour period will be allowed. Clergy will be allowed for patients requesting clergy visitation for spiritual support, and in-person interpreters are permissible if deemed important for patient communication. For more information, go to unitypoint.org. In sports, St. Edmunds softball fell 5-3 at 9th-ranked Algona last night. Bulldogs scored 3 in the third to take the win. Cameron Etherington, the winning pitcher for Algona, throwing a complete game, striking out 10. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmunds. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for isolated thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise mainly cloudy skies. High temperatures reach up to 75, northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, lows around 55, highs around 80, tomorrow partly cloudy. Upper 80s Thursday and Friday with a chance for scattered storms Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 71.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 3 1/4 at 3.25. September down 4 cents at 3.29. December corn down a nickel at 3.36 3/4. March down 4 3/4 at 3.48 3/4. July soybeans down 1 1/4 at 8.75. August down 3 cents at 8.72. September down 4 1/4 at 8.69 1/2. November down 5 1/4 at 8.74. July wheat closed up a penny at 4.86. Soybean meal down 20 cents a ton at 2.86.30. June live cattle down 87 cents at 93.52. August up 207 at 97.20. August feeder cattle up 145 at 133.20. September up 140 at 134.47. July lean hogs closed up 7 cents at 46.90, and August up 140 at 52.50. From the Alpha Media Farm Desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Is 3:10. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, that's right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. With us now is Webster County Farm Bureau past president and still a member, Steve Peterson of beautiful downtown Slifer. You know, I'm a little bummed that all the little town events are being, Fort Dodge canceled fireworks the other day. I hope Gowrie doesn't do that. Gowrie's got one of the great 4th of July celebrations in rural Iowa, this part of the state. So I hope they maintain.
I believe, I think it's kind of an ongoing evolution of their plans.
I'm sure it is.
I know they're having a modified parade, and I think they're going to expand the route to try to give a little more room for people to stand, because a lot of them get packed in there pretty tight.
Right.
I believe, they're going to do something to do with Life Flight. I think they're doing their tractor rides. Some various organizations are still, doing, some activities. So yeah, I mean, it's evolving, I think, to what people feel they're going to be comfortable with. But yeah, I've seen definitely a lot of things. The Iowa State Fair has still got a lot of things, I think, up in the air. I know one thing that I got a notice from here in the last day is in the Webster County Farm Bureau. We partner up with some other county farm bureaus, and we always get a steer for the governor's charity steer show.
Oh yeah,
and that's something that we've always done. I think they've been doing that for I think like it's been a long time. I mean, it's a tradition. I know they've raised a total of approaching $4 million, I believe. Last year, I think they raised about $284,000, and all that charity goes to the Ronald McDonald House. And I know this year now it's normally held, of course, down at the Iowa State Fair. It's going to be August 15th, and they're going to have it in Ames at the Hansen Center. I'm not familiar with the Hansen Center, but I assume it's an arena-type place, probably something to do with the vet lab. And that's where the 2020 Governor Steers show and fundraising activity is going to be held at. So,
yeah, I'm not familiar with the Hansen Center either. I thought I was fairly familiar with the ISU campus, but that one's got me thrown for a loop.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's it's got facilities to handle the steers, and there's 25 steers that's brought in from across the state, and you'll have of course, the governor and various. It could be coaches. It could be. I'm sure Mike Nagel, Secretary of Agriculture, will have a steer. Or, it's a fun day for a good cause, and it goes to the Ronald McDonald houses. So
that's wonderful.
But little bit of normalcy, I guess. Won't be the same venue, but it sounds like a lot of towns are. Adjusting, and some are going forward in modified ways. I believe Manson, I see, are they having their Crater Days is it this weekend or was it last weekend even? So
I think it's this coming weekend for Crater Days.
Okay, so again, I'm sure they're making adjustments. I think Rockwell City, they had an event on the square last Friday night. It's just a unique year. So get through it the best we can, and hopefully we'll be back to some sort of normalcy next year, I guess.
You are the king of positive spin, I'll tell you.
Well, it's all we got right now. So,
yeah, I guess that is all we got. Did you see the estimate of the money that will be lost since we don't have the Iowa State Fair this year? I think it was
it's huge.
$180 million lost to the state or something.
You look at all the people that come to that metro area and spend money. I'm sure it's amazing. And look at the vendors. Some of those vendors, a lot of that's the bulk of their livelihood for the year. So it's going to be a challenging and difficult time, I'm sure, for a lot of people because of these decisions.
Yeah, it's as you say, a very unique year. I think we're heading into a football season down at Iowa State where there's going to be no fans in the stands. That's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, I've seen that, but as unique as I'll kind of spin this off into farming, as unique as that environment is, there are some things that are very consistent and predictable. And we just passed one of those moments last weekend. That was June 20th. That's the summer solstice, and that coincides with our soybean plants around here, and that triggers them into their reproductive phase. So it's kind of a unique thing about soybeans. A lot of people don't know. They sense the time of day, or the increase, decrease in sunlight, and that triggers them to go into their reproductive phase. So that's kind of a thing a lot of people don't know. And
that's right.
Another staple that I observed over the weekend was lightning bugs. They're quite prevalent out here in the country right now, and again, that has to do with heat units and their life cycle, but that is as neat and iconic as those are to see. That also tells me as a farmer that other bugs now have hatched too. So there's been enough heat and the weather conditions. While the lightning bugs pose no threat to us, there are other insects that will. So that reinforces our need to get out and inspect for harmful insects also.
Okay. All right. Are insects, are they going to be a problem this year?
It's always pretty wild. I remember last year I kind of forgot about this, so I'd seen some of my own posts on social media. Remember the thistle caterpillars from last year and all those butterflies?
Oh, yeah.
And
that's right, yeah.
They just pummeled everyone's vehicles out the road, and that was kind of a unique thing. I have not seen any of those this year, so we really don't know from year to year. So a lot of it depends on the winters that we have, and if a lot of the insects survive from year to year, and then the climate and the conditions we have this year. So it's to be determined yet, but
sure.
Again, these things that we are witnessing right now are telling us that insects are hatching, and it is time now to be scouting those to make sure. And we go off of Iowa State recommendations from our agronomists, whether we would apply, say, an insecticide, and it's all predetermined, and they use what's called an economic threshold. so that we're not misapplying chemicals if the threat level is not up to a certain status or
Sure.
number. So it's not just a point shoot spray type thing.
Do you contact an agronomist at Iowa State University? Do they have people who specialize in insects? I suppose they do.
Oh yes, they have a big department of
what is it
people
called?
in insects, funguses, diseases, you name it. They have experts in it. A lot of them would go through our Iowa State Extension, and our local agronomists, whether they're private or with cooperatives, all of them are in contact generally with Iowa State Extension and their agronomists too. So there's a bountiful amount of information out there and people to help.
Yeah, that's Iowa State is a great resource, I'll tell you. Is there any department that the Farm Bureau turns to the most, or gets guidance from the Farm Bureau the most?
Oh, I wouldn't say there's the most. I think Farm Bureau has a great working relationship with Iowa State. The president now, Wendy Wenderstein, what used to be the dean of agriculture, and I know she had a great relationship with Farm Bureau, and now she's the president of Iowa State University. So we've had just a very, very good working relationship with Iowa State. There was something we put a few years back, and honestly, I never thought it would be used for the way it was, and that was this year, and that was the vet diagnostic lab. And it was shortly after we had the avian flu go through the Midwest, so that would have been about 5 years ago. The kind of the need for having a modern, state-of-the-art vet lab, diagnostic lab here in the Midwest was really shown after that event. And it was this year that lab also helped out the state diagnostic lab in Iowa City to help with the coronavirus testing. So even though it was really set up to do animals, I believe a lot of the stuff crosses over. So they were able to assist in the diagnostic part for coronavirus for humans.
That's wild. I mean, the coronavirus, is that affecting, how is that affecting the farm?
I don't have any salesmen.
Is that a bad thing, or?
No. Actually, if there's one positive I can say on it is I have very few, or I haven't had any door-to-door salesmen. That's probably the one good thing I can say about it. But it's changed things. We do so much work now online, remotely, teleconferences. One of the best assets I bought a year or so ago was a copier, scanner, fax machine.
Yeah.
Because, that has been invaluable during, kind of working remotely, I guess, and trying to conduct business. And again, I'm blessed here where I'm at, having WCCTA internet. It's really, I think this discussion is going to get amplified probably next year at the State House. I do know they put some money towards infrastructure in the rural broadband. I know Fort Dodge is having its challenges, even though it's not necessarily classified as rural.
Yeah, I almost hate to hear you bring up the internet here in Fort Dodge. We're still screwing around. I mean, we had an overwhelming vote to give Mediacom some competition, and we had all that and nothing since. So David Fierick, the city manager, will be around.
Well, but it's WebCal or WCCTA, that didn't happen overnight. That was something that was planned and built over almost the last decade. It's just fortunate now that I can see the fruits of that going on. Now, at the same time, when I meet with my counterparts in Farm Bureau all across the state, there's a lot of them that have virtually no choice in any internet. So, there's a lot of parts of the state that are still very, very behind times. And and some of this I think will get maybe sped up a little bit because of schools and remote learning, and that just compounds the challenges of that without the internet. And being a business in modern times, whether it's a farm business or a retail business, I think it's vitally important to have high-speed internet.
Sure. Oh, God, we have to have it. We have to have it, and we have to have the ability to choose. I know that MediaCom and other groups are working assiduously to make sure that towns like Fort Dodge don't have the same options as Lauraville or other smaller communities. But we need constant pressure from the city then to move forward, because they certainly have a mandate from the public, I'll tell you that. And I'm sure that's what WCPT had as a mandate from the public, because of people like you and other farmers who have to have it for business. They just have to have it.
Well, we were just fortunate enough that the WCCTA is a cooperative, and it's led by the people. So and we got a great board that's been elected there, and they're very they had good foresight, and they had visions of this long before it became really known. So we're just fortunate to be on the front side of the technology. So, that's a lot of that's what it's changed for me. But we don't do a lot of business face to face. It still seems like we minimize a lot of contact, whether it be picking up seed or chemicals or it's different, which is a big adjustment from someone who was I prefer face to face business.
All right, Steve Peterson's our guest. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. We're getting down to the end here, Steve. Is there anything that we've missed here today?
Well, I think we covered a lot of subjects, but I would just say, everyone needs to pay attention to the situation, and if you're passionate about a subject, talk about it, because there's definitely someone else that's going to talk about it for you.
That's right. That's the truth, isn't it?
It's very prevalent what we're seeing right now with a lot of the lawsuits and court cases going on in California.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. What we talked about in the last half hour is there's a group of people out there that, again, are just opposed to farming as we do it in the Midwest. They're vegans and people who don't like pesticides, all kinds of things. And they have an activist soul in that they believe they're doing something good for the country, which they certainly are not. But I don't want to go down that road because I have a tendency to start barking about it. But anyway, so Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. This portion of the program, again, brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 3:28. The news is next.
Have you ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson Ricky LeBlanc, admitted in Massachusetts only. Sokolov Law LLC, Chestnut Hill, Mass. Paul J. Morgan, Winter Park, Florida. Greg Hobby, New Jersey. Michael Bro Gonzalez, admitted Louisiana. While this firm maintains joint responsibility, most cases of this type are referred to other attorneys for principal responsibility. Mesothelioma. If you know what mesothelioma is, you or someone you love has likely been affected by this devastating cancer. You may be entitled to compensation. Call Sokolov Law today. 1-800-736-2100. The only known cause of mesothelioma is asbestos exposure. Thousands of U.S. veterans and trade workers are at risk for the disease. Nearly $30 billion in court-ordered trusts has been set aside to pay money to asbestos victims. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call now. You may be able to receive compensation without ever going to court or filing a lawsuit. Call for a free legal consultation at 1-800-736-2100. That's 1-800-736-2100. 1-800-736-2100.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. An inmate at the Fort Dodge Correctional Facility has been charged with first-degree murder. On June 14th, 59-year-old Thomas Andrew Dulesky was found dead in his cell. Dulesky was serving a 45-year sentence for multiple charges related to sexual abuse and lascivious acts with a child. He had been incarcerated since 2000. Officials have released findings in the subsequent investigation, and they say that 44-year-old Eric Hall had been inside Dulesky's cell just prior to his body being found. Officials say Hall has admitted to killing Dulesky and is charged with first-degree murder here in Webster County. The autopsy determined Dulesky's cause of death to be strangulation with blunt force injuries to the head and was ruled a homicide. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. Unity Point Health Fort Dodge has started to ease visitor restrictions. A statement released by Unity Point Health Fort Dodge Monday morning says as the number of COVID restrictions lift across Iowa, Unity Point Health Fort Dodge believes we have the appropriate safety measures in place to keep our patients and staff safe while easing visitor restrictions. The following considerations are now in place for visitors. For clinical appointments, 1 visitor for adults and 2 visitors for pediatrics will be allowed. Adult inpatients will be allowed 1 visitor or support person at a time. Pediatric patients, 2 parents or guardians at a time. In the ER, 1 visitor or support person will be allowed, and that person must stay in the room. For surgical and procedural patients, patients will be allowed 1 visitor for outpatient surgeries. That visitor will have to remain in the patient's room during surgery. For end-of-life patients, 2 visitors or support people are allowed around the clock. They are encouraged to stay in the room. At the hospice house, 2 visitors total in a 24-hour period will be allowed. Clergy will be allowed for patients requesting clergy visitation for spiritual support, and in-person interpreters are permissible if deemed important for patient communication. For more information, go to unitypoint.org. In sports, St. Edmunds softball fell 5-3 at 9th-ranked Algona last night. Bulldogs scored 3 in the third to take the win. Cameron Etherington, the winning pitcher for Algona, throwing a complete game, striking out 10. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmunds. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for isolated thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise mainly cloudy skies. High temperatures reach up to 75, northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, lows around 55, highs around 80. Tomorrow, partly cloudy. Upper 80s Thursday and Friday, with a chance for scattered storms Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 72.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 3 1/4 at $3.25. September down 4 cents at $3.29. December corn down a nickel at $3.36 3/4. March down 4 3/4 at $3.48 3/4. July soybeans down 1 1/4 at $8.75. August down 3 cents at $8.72. September down 4 1/4 at $8.69 1/2. November down 5 1/4 at $8.74. July wheat closed up a penny at $4.86. Soybean meal down 20 cents a ton at $2.86.30. June live cattle down 87 cents at $93.52. August up $2.07 at $97.20. August feeder cattle up $1.45 at $133.20. September up $1.40 at $134.47. July lean hogs closed up 7 cents at $46.90, and August up $1.40 at $52.50. From the Alpha Media Farm Desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Every 5 years, there are new dietary guidelines for Americans set by the federal government. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. The 2020 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee is expected to submit its final recommendations to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Health and Human Services by the end of the month. Chairwoman Barbara Schieneman says they received more than 62,000 public comments. She says undergoing the review process during the COVID-19 pandemic solidifies the importance of nutrition and food security.
Those most at risk for the most serious outcomes of COVID-19, including hospitalization and death, are people afflicted by diet-related chronic diseases.
The National Milk Producers Federation and the International Dairy Foods Association say they are pleased the committee recognizes the importance of dairy in a healthy diet, but they are calling the full body of scientific studies to be recognized, including research which finds dairy foods, regardless of fat level, appear to have either neutral or beneficial effects on chronic disease risks. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association says recommendations on red meat were similar to 2015 guidelines, which say beef is part of a healthy diet, but they would like to see experts better clarify what constitutes lean meat. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Kids are full of energy, but keeping them active in their teen years can be a challenge. Aim for an hour of physical activity every day. If they like sports, that's a great place to start. Keep the focus on fun, not winning, and encourage your child to do a variety of activities. If your child isn't meeting that 60-minute goal, gradually increase their activity in ways they enjoy. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org. Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. If you own firearms, it's your responsibility to make sure they're always stored safely. Hiding them in a closet or drawer is not enough. Kids know where they are. Research shows the risk of injury and death is lower if guns are stored unloaded and locked up, with the ammunition locked in a separate place. This is important when children are young, as well as when they grow into teenagers. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor, brought to you by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing emergencies don't usually happen during normal business hours, so Riley Armstrong is here for you 24/7. Call 955-2232. And the Fort Museum in Frontier Village, where history comes alive. Travel back in time and celebrate the heritage of Fort Dodge at the Fort Museum. Book your next special event at the Opera House, too. When severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
White or wheat, classic or old-fashioned, with or without sesame seeds. With so many choices, selecting the right bun for your super-duper top-secret recipe handcrafted home-grilled burger can seem overwhelming. But relax, the bakers at Village Hearth have made it easy. As long as you see the familiar Village Hearth logo on your package, your grilling cookout's bound to be a huge success. Unless, that is, your unwanted relatives show up, then there's no bun on earth that can save it. Village Hearth Buns, baking our best for you.
I've always wanted to learn another language, so I decided to give Babbel a try, and I really like the teaching method of the app. I started with the beginner lesson on Babbel, and soon you're putting words into a conversation. Each lesson takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and they're all really different, which keeps things interesting. I can't wait to use my Spanish skills in real life. Dos cervezas, por favor.
Now try Babbel free. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's BABBEL.com.
Get the most profit out of every acre with Premier Crop Systems. Success is more than knowing Hybrid A beat Hybrid B. You need to know where to place the seeds for them to perform their best. And that's exactly what Premier Crop Systems does for your operation. Be empowered to get the most out of your fields through data-driven decisions. We want to meet your goals and help you increase efficiencies and maximize profits. Because your success is our success. Contact Premier Crop Systems today at premiercrop.com.
We all need a little help sometimes.
Lifelong Links connects older Iowans who need assistance with living independently.
During these challenging times, you may find yourself in need of a little assistance in order to remain healthy and safe in your home. Lifelong Links from the Iowa Department on Aging will connect you to available resources such as food, meals, personal care, or just someone to talk with.
Please call 866-468-7887 and you will receive a supportive response to help navigate these uncertain times together.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. If you have anything to confess, here's the place. I just call 955-1400. I'll hear your confession. Whip an absolution on you that will just knock your socks off. We're waiting for a call from Jim Kirsten, who's out at Iowa Central. Of course, he's a former state representative and a long-time Republican. Jim kind of keeps an eye on things down in Des Moines at the State House for us, and I'm always appreciative of that. And, of course, he keeps us informed as to what's happening at Iowa Central, which is very important to our area as well. I don't know what the economic impact that Iowa Central has on our 5-county area, but I'm sure it's substantial. So let's welcome Jim Kirsten to the show. How are you, Jim?
Hey, real good. Thanks for having me back.
I was just on air speculating about the economic impact that Iowa Central has on a 5-county area. I know I'm hitting you out of the blue on this, but do you happen to have any idea what the economic impact is?
We have a study that we've done that shows by Ernie Goss, the economist from Creighton University. I mean, it's in the, if not 100 million, it's close to a positive impact to the region.
100 million.
Yeah, I'll get you the study. I'll send it to you. So I'm not. Again, I think that number kind of sticks to the back of my head.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
it's a huge economic impact, and we're continuing to adapt to the new environment, and we're hoping we can be up and operational this fall because we need to serve students in the regional economy.
Sure, absolutely. Boy, I couldn't believe it. I think I saw in the this morning in the Des Moines Register the economic impact of the Iowa State Fair is about $180 million.
Oh, it is, and think about each football game that Iowa City and Ames, what that does to the university.
Oh yeah.
So it's a multiplier effect that's really beyond a lot of people's control.
Boy, this coronavirus is something else. They're talking about having a football season now where there's nobody in the stands.
Yeah, that's too bad.
That is way too bad. I don't know how they're going to come out on that. I appreciate it as a fan. I'll still watch the games, I guess. But
I was hearing someone that said, if a person wants to pay a ticket to go watch a football game, they should be probably required to sign some kind of a waiver that university and teams aren't liable. They took the chance knowing that there's no guarantee. But even then, I'm sure lawyers are going to, on both sides, say, don't go that route.
I went out to Unity Point today. I have my CPAP machine now, so I'm definitely one of the older guys. But I went out to Unity Point by across the street from what their Crossroads used to be, just next to Brown Shoe Store there. And they, of course, were all wearing masks, and I was wearing a mask, of course. That's what they require, and that's fine. I just want, and the masks apparently don't protect you, they protect other people. Right. Or is there a way to protect us? I mean, is there some sort of device or mask that we can wear that
No, I think a lot of it is just you got to continually wash your hands and try not to have hand-to-mouth contact, or and just clean, and that's what we're doing here at the college. We have people, nonstop walking throughout, cleaning the door handles, everything possible, so that again it's not transmitted that way. But again, it's a lot of it is, I think, it's just like if I have it, I cough, and then you get it. That's the danger, I guess.
Okay. What is the opening day for opening day?
Yeah.
What is the beginning of this term at Iowa Central looks like?
Well, we're gonna do a hybrid of courses starting July 1, some face-to-face, many online, and then the same thing for this fall. We're gonna offer, again, it's gonna be a varied schedule, but we're gonna try to again keep social distancing as best as we can. And Tom Beneke and Dr. Stacy Mensker, our Vice President of Academics, is working on those details. But again, we want to get as many people back on campus in the normal environment as possible, but safely.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly want that. The economy has picked up a little bit since since the economy has been opened up by the governor of the state. I was talking with Dr. Dean Stanzel, an economist with Southern Methodist University, just yesterday, and those states with the highest unemployment rates, not surprisingly, are the states that are still closed up, like Michigan and in some of those states. They have a very high 20% and more in some cases. And that's their unemployment rate. You got to remember that the highest the unemployment rate ever got during the Great Depression, which was devastating, was 25%.
I know.
And we're approaching that area now. I mean, and the people who are being hurt, of course, are average working people. And I don't know what to do about the pork industry and the packing plants. I mean, it's critical for our area. I guess I have all the questions, Jim, but I don't have any of the answers.
No, and I think, again, that even the people in the industry, they're just doing their best to manage what they've got in an unknown environment. So I just hope, again, the sooner we get back up and running, the better. I think that's what Governor Reynolds is trying to do responsibly. You always have critics, but again, we can't just, live in a vacuum the rest of our lives.
No, you're absolutely right. And there is such a thing as virus fatigue, I think.
Yeah, yep.
That affects us all. I mean, the legislative session, of course, has wrapped up. You're listening to AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and our guest is Jim Kirsten. He's a former Republican representative from our area, and he kind of keeps an eye on things, as I mentioned before. He keeps an eye on things down in Des Moines for us here in the Fort Dodge area. And so the session has come to an end. And it was probably the strangest session ever, of course, because of the COVID virus.
Yes.
There wasn't a lot of contact between legislators, but they seem to get their business done anyway. And that's a good thing. What can you point to that's a benefit to our area or to Iowa Central that the legislators got done this year?
Well, I think the number one thing is we're lucky that the state had been well managed so that we had over $1 billion in our rainy day fund and savings account. So that was in there for the worst case scenario if we had complete loss in revenues. But the Iowa economy had been doing so well till the middle of March that they were able to balance the budget and keep everybody generally whole, doing cuts, and without dipping into that rainy day fund. So, again, Iowa is one of the unique states in the country, I think, and so therefore Iowa Central, our budget has been held harmless, basically, but we still have significant unknown costs that we're dealing with, not related to the day-to-day operations of the college. So, again, we've worked very aggressively with Senator Grassley and Ernst on the federal relief package that we got, and that's helped, but we still have significant lost revenue, and especially if we come back next year and can't have generally full occupation of our dorms, those are all operated by revenue, that comes in through their tuition and room and board, and if we don't have that revenue, we won't be able to have the income to pay for that. So all those things are being analyzed by not just our college, but every college in the country. But Iowa, though, in Fort Dodge, we were taken very well good care of, and I was really proud. I was down there that last few days fighting to make sure that they would, keep our budget at least equal. And Senator Kreinbrink and the others down there listened, and we're very appreciative to that. And I mean, next year going in, hopefully the economy picks up, so we'll have tax revenues coming in, and they don't have to come in and do significant cuts or dip into that rainy day fund. And I'm sure you're going to talk to Tim and Ann Meyer because both of them were both champions for us. And we really appreciate it.
Sure, yeah. Well, we're fortunate at this particular time to have some pretty good representatives. We haven't always had really good representatives. But I think with Tim and Mike over in the western half of the county, and Calhoun County, of course, and certainly Ann Meyer has proved herself to be a tireless worker.
She is.
And that girl, I tell you, she has come along. The things that she has learned just in the last couple of years, of course, she's an intelligent person, but she has learned a lot of things in a very short period of time.
And that was the way it was to also work with former Rep. Helen Miller. I think, honestly, the number one job of legislators in state and federal, and even local city, is they're there to represent people and listen to them. And it's, we all might have our own individual ideas and agenda and philosophy, but at the end of the day, you're elected by the people. And I think we've been able to have the last several years people like Helen Miller and Darrell Beal, and then now we have Tim and Ann. And I think I'm just proud that they're actually very willing to listen. And they don't always agree, but at least they're willing to listen. And I'm pleased. And the same thing with our local community here has really responded well with the leadership, both at the city level, the mayor and council, and all the others. Hold on.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I got a new phone and I don't know how to turn it off. Sorry.
That's all right.
It'll stop ringing here. I think I have to go to cell phone operating class. God.
I suppose.
All right, it stopped. I apologize to you and your listeners. That's embarrassing.
That's all right. No,
what was your question?
Well, you were explaining, we were talking about legislators past and present. You mentioned Darrell Beal, and if I wanted to know the inner workings of the State House, I called on Darrell. I mean, he knew. Yep. And, Darrell was a Democrat, is a Democrat, but they honestly, I remember 2 times that stick out in my mind for both of them. When we started, doing training in the Fort Dodge prisons, the Department of Corrections had a federal grant, and we were lucky enough to be able to use that to help jumpstart welding and technical programs in the Fort Dodge prison. Well, one year, right towards the end of the session, our Dean of Industrial Technology called me and said, hey, the state just lost their federal funding for this thing, and they're going to have to shut us down unless we can find more money. So long story short, I went to Senator Beal, told him the situation. He said, summarize it, very briefly in a one-page summary, and I did. And he went to Mike Grunstall and literally looked at me and said, well, Mike, or he said, well, Darrell, I'm going to have him, you draft up an amendment, we'll add that $500,000 to the state budget. This is 2 important programs to shut down. Now, that's not how government should work, but they responded on the dime. And then the same thing, we were doing our fuel lab. There are 2 huge things that have impacted our college. Representative Miller did the same thing. She helped steer an appropriation of $250,000 to match local funding to our college, and then some federal funding. And now we are serving all 50 states, testing not only regular fuel, but all the biofuels. Now, again, that's a picture-perfect way how it should work. And again, we're now represented by the same type of people. It's a pleasure to work with them, frankly. Yeah, Darrell's a good guy. I mean, push everything off to the side. He's just a good guy. He is, I had disagreements with Darrell. Of course, I have disagreements with everybody, but but Darrell was an effective legislator, and he was responsive most of the time. He just, again, his issues that he cared about weren't the ones that I cared about.
Right.
Helen Miller was terrific. I mean, I would go to Eggs and Issues when they were still at the college in the auditorium there, and I'd be the first one to the microphone every week, and I would ask the representatives that were assembled there what they would do to protect people in nursing homes, because we just had that awful incident up in Pomeroy nursing home, and Helen is the one who took that to Des Moines and tried to push for it, and she pushed for a long time, and we couldn't seem to get anything done with that. And there's still nothing effective, I don't think, any real change as far as protecting our elderly in nursing homes. But it's not for lack of trying on Helen's part, I'll tell you that, because she did. And she certainly educated herself. For a professional person from New Jersey, she certainly educated herself on the farm economy.
Yes.
And how to move the farm economy forward. Legal steps. Her training as a lawyer helped her quite a bit, of course. Legal steps to improve the farm economy, and that did not go unnoticed. I mean,
Right.
she was a hard-working person.
Well, I think that's why Governor Reynolds appointed her to be the chairperson of the Iowa Board of Parole. She saw a very balanced, common-sense leader there that they needed to help kind of offer more reforms on the parole system in Iowa. And a good example, again, is here we have one of our former inmates in Rockwell City that we had trained get offered a job up in Lorenz at an electrical manufacturer. And the parole officer, from the area here just said, no, we're going to send you back to Dubuque where you're from. He had no family, he had no job, he had nothing. Yet the people in Lorenz were going to basically guarantee him his payment, his rent the first and last month of the year, and then they helped him, move into Lorenz. So initially they sent him back to Dubuque, but then I got involved with Helen, and within I think a few days he had a ride over to Lorenz, Iowa, and he's still working there very productively. And so again, Helen really understood, this program that we're doing in the prison is to teach these guys skills, so when they get out, they don't go back. And it's been a great success, and that's been led by Neil Adams and Abby Underberg College, and they've done a really good job.
Sure. Well, Neil's a sharp guy.
Yeah.
Neil's a sharp guy. He was in charge, one of his duties was to monitor the broadcast program when I was out there. I think the broadcast program is still going on.
Yep.
But anyway, Neil's a sharp guy. Came from New Zealand and got a scholarship because he played baseball,
Yes.
And we don't associate New Zealand with baseball, but as he explained it to me one time, baseball in New Zealand is like soccer in the United States. It's probably not the most popular sport, but it is a legitimate sport, and he was good at it, and that's how he got to this country, and he's had a great career.
Yes, he has, and he just loves it here, and he's continued to help build those programs in that industrial training area and broadcasting and other business courses.
Sure, yeah. So, Jim, what are we missing here, if anything, as far as the legislative session or what's happening in Iowa Central or local politics?
No, I think the local community is responding as best they can to this COVID situation, and it's good to see a little more activity out there in the stores. So I'm pretty pleased, and I just hope the rest of the country can recover like we are. And I think there's going to be, the way it sounds, outbreaks in some of the populated areas, just because of the closeness of people together. But I think hopefully here in rural America we can get through this and not have another peak.
Well, that would be the thing I'm wishing for. I'll tell you, we don't need any more spikes or any other nonsense. So
no. So other than that, just look forward to talking to you maybe next week.
All right, Jim Kirsten has been our guest. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Ford Dodge.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Apple and the NASDAQ have both been in record territory today, though Apple is ending Intel as its supplier for chips and its Mac computers. Intel shares have also been trading higher. Sales of new homes jumped last month, up more than 16%, an encouraging sign for the housing market. Another report indicates the slowdown in manufacturing and service sector businesses is moderating this month. Shares of Germany's Bayer are rallying. There are reports the company is close to an agreement to settle lawsuits that claim the ingredient in its Roundup weed killer causes cancer. Amazon will be spending $2 billion on a fund to invest in technology that will reduce the impact of climate change. Amazon shares are higher. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
David Horowitz's new book about President Trump is out. It's called Blitz. In Blitz, Horowitz warns that Antifa wants to stop Trump and crush our freedoms. Blitz predicted that race would be a big issue, but Trump has a secret plan for the election. Mike Huckabee says if everyone reads Blitz, Trump will win. A #1 Amazon bestseller. Get Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX, or go to blitz411.com. blitz411.com. David Horowitz's new book about President Trump is out. It's called Blitz. In Blitz, Horowitz warns that Antifa wants to stop Trump and crush our freedoms. Blitz predicted that race would be a big issue, but Trump has a secret plan for the election. Mike Huckabee says if everyone reads Blitz, Trump will win. A #1 Amazon bestseller. Get Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to blitz411.com. blitz411.com.
Well, thanks to our guests so far today. They'd be Steve Peterson of the Webster County Farm Bureau and Jim Kirsten out at Iowa Central. David Feerick, Dr. Evil, will be our guest in the next half hour. And we'll have Sherry Washington at 4:40. So a full lineup today. It's 3:59. A great day. Thank you for listening. KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
The president makes a stand. On Lisa Brady, Fox News. He says anyone who destroys federal property like a monument or statue could be arrested and face jail time after protesters tried to set up an autonomous zone near the White House last night and tried to take down a statue of President Andrew Jackson.
I really don't even think, frankly, they know who they're taking down. I think they just want to do things for bad purposes. And these aren't protesters, these are agitators.
The president speaking at a border security roundtable event in Arizona, where he also visited the border wall to mark 200 miles of wall completed. Arizona is one of more than 20 states having a surge in coronavirus cases. The president's also giving a speech at a church in Phoenix.
And there's actually a mask mandate for folks in social settings. We're told the Trump team is doing temperature checks, and masks are supposed to be worn, but it doesn't seem like many are following those instructions, nor social distancing. Everybody's really packed in here.
Fox's Jeff Paul. Some of the nation's top public health officials testifying at a House hearing, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, who says rising numbers of cases aren't just from ramped-up testing.
In other areas of the country, we're now seeing a disturbing surge of infections that looks like it's a combination, but one of the things is an increase in community spread.
He also says no one's been told to reduce testing, and he's still hoping for a coronavirus vaccine by early next year. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he'll try again if a Republican police reform bill doesn't get enough support to clear a procedural hurdle tomorrow. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says it's a bad bill.
We can and we must work with each other and craft a bill that can actually pass the Senate.
But Republicans say a House-passed bill goes too far and that the Senate bill would be a better starting point for negotiations. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of four is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20. So switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text from Pure Talk USA.
Oh, whale! Guys, whale! Wow, whale.
Oh, that's a big whale. Okay. Whale. Oh no, whale!
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered. Get a quote today in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com.
Well, at least it wasn't a shark, am I right?
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
A man shot and killed by police in Atlanta is remembered with a big turnout at the iconic Ebenezer Baptist Church.
An emotional conclusion to the funeral for Ray Shard Brooks,
inside the church, invited guests and family. Outside here, a jumbotron and an overflow crowd. Brooks, of course, black man, 27 years old, shot and killed by two white police officers on June 12th outside of Wendy's. This after fighting with the two police officers, taking one of their tasers and trying to flee. The Reverend who gave the eulogy here said this is more than just about Brooks. He said it's about the mass incarceration of black men in the United States.
Fox's Steve Harrigan. A woman is now in custody, accused of setting a fire that gutted the Wendy's restaurant where Brooks was killed in the parking lot. Atlanta fire arson investigators announcing the arrest of Natalie White with assistance from county sheriff's officials. A Massachusetts utility ordered to pay a massive fine for deadly explosions 2 years ago.
A judge says Columbia Gas has to pay $53 million for the blasts that hit communities north of Boston, killing one person, injuring several others, and destroying dozens of buildings. Columbia Gas pleaded guilty 3 months ago, admitting it didn't properly monitor overpressurized gas lines. The fine is the largest ever levied on a company under the federal pipeline safety statute. Columbia Gas was purchased by another company shortly after its guilty plea. A 3-year probation period also imposed by the judge will end once that sale is final. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
An annual event President Trump has spurned is now canceled for this year. The White House Correspondents' Dinner scrapped after consultation with medical experts and others. The Correspondents Association says it had been working to make the event safe, but is now working on a virtual presentation. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. An inmate at the Fort Dodge Correctional Facility has been charged with first-degree murder. On June 14th, 59-year-old Thomas Andrew Dulesky was found dead in his cell. Dulesky was serving a 45-year sentence for multiple charges related to sexual abuse and lascivious acts with a child. He had been incarcerated since 2000. Officials have released findings in the subsequent investigation, and they say that 44-year-old Eric Hall had been inside Dulesky's cell just prior to his body being found. Officials say Hall has admitted to killing Dulesky and is charged with first-degree murder here in Webster County. The autopsy determined Dulesky's cause of death to be strangulation with blunt force injuries to the head and was ruled a homicide. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. Unity Point Health Fort Dodge has started to ease visitor restrictions. A statement released by Unity Point Health Fort Dodge Monday morning says as the number of COVID restrictions lift across Iowa, Unity Point Health Fort Dodge believes we have the appropriate safety measures in place to keep our patients and staff safe while easing visitor restrictions. The following considerations are now in place for visitors. For clinical appointments, 1 visitor for adults and 2 visitors for pediatrics will be allowed. Adult inpatients will be allowed 1 visitor or support person at a time. Pediatric patients, 2 parents or guardians at a time. In the ER, 1 visitor or support person will be allowed, and that person must stay in the room. For surgical and procedural patients, patients will be allowed 1 visitor for outpatient surgeries. That visitor will have to remain in the patient's room during surgery. For end-of-life patients, 2 visitors or support people are allowed around the clock. They are encouraged to stay in the room. At the hospice house, 2 visitors total in a 24-hour period will be allowed. Clergy will be allowed for patients requesting clergy visitation for spiritual support, and in-person interpreters are permissible if deemed important for patient communication. For more information, go to unitypoint.org. In sports, St. Edmunds softball fell 5-3 at 9th-ranked Algona last night. Bulldogs scored 3 in the third to take the win. Cameron Etherington, the winning pitcher for Algona, throwing a complete game, striking out 10. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmunds. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunday 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 3 1/4 at $3.25. September down 4 cents at $3.29. December corn down a nickel at $3.36 3/4. March down 4 3/4 at $3.48 3/4. July soybeans down 1 1/4 at $8.75. August down 3 cents at $8.72. September down 4 1/4 at $8.69 1/2. November down 5 1/4 at $8.74. July wheat closed up a penny at $4.86. Soybean meal down 20 cents a ton at $2.86.30. June live cattle down 87 cents at $93.52. August up $2.07 at $97.20. August feeder cattle up $1.45 at $133.20. September up $1.40 at $134.47. July lean hogs closed up 7 cents at $46.90, and August up $1.40 at $52.50. From the Alpha Media Farm Desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Chance for isolated thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise mainly cloudy skies. High temperatures reach up to 75, northwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, lows around 55, highs around 80, tomorrow partly cloudy. Upper 80s Thursday and Friday with a chance for scattered storms Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 72.
David Horowitz's new book about President Trump is out. It's called Blitz. In Blitz, Horowitz warns that Antifa wants to stop Trump and crush our freedoms. Blitz predicted that race would be a big issue, but Trump has a secret plan for the election. Mike Huckabee says if everyone reads Blitz, Trump will win. A #1 Amazon bestseller. Get Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to blitz411.com. blitz411.com.
How do you like your sandwich? Do you prefer turkey or ham, mayo or mustard, crunchy or creamy peanut butter? No matter what you like to put on your sandwich, everyone agrees that a really good sandwich should start with a really great bread. That's why the bakers of Country Hearth put so much care into making their natural breads. Baked with good stuff like toasted whole grains and natural honey, you're sure to find a variety that's just right for you. So no matter how you like your sandwich, Country Hearth has the perfect bread to build it on. Country Hearth's bread, baking our best for you.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Yes, I'm the Doctor of Truth. With me now is Dr. Evil, the city manager of Fort Dodge, David Furyk. How are you there, Mr. Evil?
Great, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm really good. I got my CPAP machine today out at Unity Point, so hopefully I'll be breathing a little easier at night, or I'm able to sleep a little bit better at night. But it was just one of those moments where you realize that, yeah, you're officially one of the older fellows now. So.
You know, there's a lot of people that have CPAP machines.
There's a lot of people, yes. I was surprised.
I have one, too, yeah.
Do you have one, really?
Yeah.
Well, you're not an overweight guy.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Really?
But it's not that. I mean, I didn't even snore a lot, but they did the sleep study and I had mild apnea, so I got CPAP.
Well, that surprises me that someone's built like you has to have it, but yeah. I usually equated it again with overweight people or bigger people in general. You're a bigger guy, but I don't know. Just goes to show you, hell, I don't know. Anybody can have sleep apnea. I'm sure they can. Anyway,
well, it's one of those things where it's such a non-invasive treatment. I don't think they're too hesitant to put that in, because what does it hurt you? It doesn't.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I spent a night in a hospital out here at Unity Point. and they were monitoring me, of course, throughout the night. And I was awoken a couple of times by the nurse who needed to check me out or whatever. Anyway, I was woken a couple of times, but I tell you, I left the next morning and I felt better than I had in months after sleeping with that CPAP. So I look forward to it.
Great.
Anyway, David Ferrick is our guest. This is kind of boring, I know. Old people, health problems.
Old guys talking about CPAP. Yeah,
old guys talking about. So
that's good news. Yeah.
Let's move on. I was talking with Steve Peters of the Farm Bureau a little bit, and he brought up internet service, and I was once again envious of the internet service that they have in the rural areas. How are we? I mean, the city got an overwhelming mandate from the people that we're ready for privately owned internet, city-owned internet, or something better than we have now, and that was last fall. We talk about it every now and then, but I haven't seen or heard any action, really, or decisions being made on what we should do with internet access here in Fort Dodge. Can you give us some kind of update on that?
Yes, so there was action last night.
All right.
Council approved a contract with Howard R. Green, which is an Iowa engineering company. There's a lot of different engineering, civil engineering, things like that, but they also have a broadband communications group. And so we hired them. It's about a $40,000 contract to do what's called an advanced feasibility study. So what they're going to do is really get into the numbers and do a little bit more design work and come out with what they think this system is truly going to cost and how it's going to, and ultimately is that feasible? And then they go from that feasibility study to like bond underwriters look at that and decide, okay, yeah, here this is a good project, this is a good deal, and move from there. So they're going to start the feasibility study pretty much right away. It should be done August, September, maybe a little bit around that time in the fall. It'll be done. That'll tell us how feasible a municipal system is, a municipal-owned utility.
All right.
At the same time, we're going to put out what's called a request for information to telecom providers who do broadband, who do fiber, and say, hey, the city of Fort Dodge wants to build a fiber system to every premise in town. We want fiber going right to the home. We want to know if you're interested in, one, doing it in Fort Dodge as kind of a non-exclusive franchise, two, partner with the city of Fort Dodge, or I guess that would be one or two doing that, because we'll see what we get as far as information and proposals, and then we can evaluate the public-private partnership or private franchise in comparison to a municipal utility. So sometime this fall, the council will be able to make an educated decision on what direction to go in. And
sometimes when I talk with you or Mayor Bemrick or even Councilman Menke, I sense that maybe a city-owned broadband is not something you guys want, that you'd much rather have a partnership. Is that right?
I don't know. I mean, I've always called it, we're agnostic to the idea, It's like we're not against it. We're not atheists. It's just, if it's something that the private sector can do and do well and do under the what we think as a city government the city needs, why would we not let the private sector do it? I mean, that's kind of how I always look at things. The city should be limited. If the private sector is willing to step in and do it and can do a great job with and meet the community needs, why should the government step in and do it?
Yeah. That's true.
If not, then we step in and do it.
I guess we've gone through quite a time with private companies having our internet service. Mm-hmm. And to say the least, as far as I'm concerned and many others, it really hasn't worked out for the benefit of the citizens of Fort Dodge. I really don't think it has. So the idea of a municipally owned internet service that the citizens of Fort Dodge might have some say in is a lot more appealing than getting involved with yet another big company. I understand that we have to wait for this Howard R. Green study results. We're talking feasibility, and we talk feasibility, we're talking money. and other broadband carriers may be able to do it for less money than if we had our own broadband. But I look at the example of Spencer that owns its own utilities and broadband service, and they're very, very prosperous. I was not one who was in favor, and I don't think I was the only one, of the tendency in Fort Dodge to farm out services to out of town or even out of state groups, because it would have been, well, cost effective. We'll see how it all works out anyway. So do you lean toward, you're still an agnostic, you're telling me?
Well, I don't think we lean anyway, and I think that's why we've structured this feasibility study and request for information to come parallel, is that we can evaluate everything together on a level playing field and make a decision. It's how I interpret it, how I feel, and how I interpret how the council members feel about it as well.
Okay, we're going to have Minky in here tomorrow, and we'll see what's happening with him. But I'm ready for something to happen with this internet business, I'm sure. Of course, there are so many projects that I'm ready to see something be done about. Has there any sort of decision been made on the Warden Plaza?
Decisions made on a Warden Plaza.
Right.
Well, we're in the midst of figuring out what the current owners of the Warden Plaza are willing to do or not willing to do, and whether we, break ties with them and continue with try to find another company. We are moving forward with the Wakanza Annex remediation. We had a meeting last night, a presentation from a representative from Impact 7G, who designed the remediation, which is, again, it's asbestos, lead, and all those things that have to get removed. It's kind of a good story. That building doesn't have too much that has to come out. When that comes out, then we could move ahead with the demolition of it. However, there was an interesting discussion on, well, if the rec center is not going to go attached to the warden, should we actually be demolishing it? Well, that's a discussion we can have as we move down the line, but we still have to do the remediation either way. So the thought is we continue with the remediation and then decide what ultimately to do with that.
Remediation means tear the building down, right?
No, remediation just gets rid of all the asbestos.
Okay.
And anything else that's not supposed to be in a habitable building anymore. Mostly asbestos.
Well, at one time you wouldn't have believed the Warden Plaza and Wakana Annex. They were the pride of the community, but that was a long, long time ago.
And I think they can be again.
I hope so. Boy, I really, really hope so. Nevin Mulholland convinced me a few years ago that, and Denny Ploutz both, Denny convinced me that downtown development just simply had to have a refurbished Warden Plaza, and Nevin, of course, believed pretty much that as well, and that we needed a rec center, and we needed these things and that things. That the art center, the art people were going to be there, and I think they're right. I don't doubt them at all that what we need is a refurbished Warden Plaza. Sure. So really, it sounds like nothing has really changed with the current owners of the Warden. We haven't decided to take it from them or anything. Is that right?
I can say we're just exchanging correspondence right now, and then we'll see where that goes.
That's a very political answer there,
yeah.
David. Yeah. You know, when I exchange correspondence, there's usually some threats involved of even beatings.
Threat is such a subjective term, Mike.
Yes, I know. My son even noticed that early when I would communicate with somebody. He said, "Dad, there's always a threat of violence in what you write." I hadn't realized it, but perhaps he was right. Threat of violence. I don't think anybody has to worry about that now from me, I'll tell you that. Anyway, David Farrick is our guest. This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Good news, David, as of next week. Actually, as of this week. I could have told you, and you could have come over. You can be in studio with me again, which is better for both of us, I think. Sometimes you lose nuance over the phone, but
So next week we're in the studio.
Yeah, we're in the studio. Again, you could have been today if I'd have remembered to contact you. But, yeah, just come to the East Door and text me that you're here, and I'll come and get you, and we'll just blow minds all over town because that's what we do.
Well, cool. Do you got any neat posters and stuff? You know, it's been months.
Well, I got the Dr. Evil poster back here, but most of my posters are the same. I have bought a couple more, and I'll see if I can get them up before you get here.
Maybe I shouldn't become.
Oh no, I see. But you know, that cough, I know is terrible. And I have to carry an inhaler with me at all times. And boy, I'll tell you, and I've said this before, I can clean out a grocery aisle in no time flat. You go out to Hy-Vee and cough like that, and boom, I'm alone in the aisle. What else happened at the city council meeting, by the way?
Some interesting stuff. We have had a first consideration of the rezoning, and that would make way for a daycare facility just north of the aquatic center. So that's a project that's proceeding. So we had the first reading on that. We had some TIF stuff we did. We have another project for the water treatment plant. The major water quality improvement project. Part of that is to build a way to get the I would call it backwash from the filters. You know, because the new water treatment plant's going to have these really high performance filters that are going to pull out a lot of the hardness, and that stuff needs to go straight to the wastewater treatment plant. So we had a bid opening on that and bid that project out. So that's moved forward. What else?
Sounds like it got some things done anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of typically a fact meeting.
You had a fact meeting?
Pretty packed meeting of things
packed.
on the agenda. Not people. We still did it the hybrid Zoom. A few people attending the meeting. So I think Rob watched it on Zoom and that. But no, so we're still doing that. We have a road reconstruction project we gave design to McClure to do. Here's an interesting one. So we approved a memorandum of understanding with Fort Dodge Community School Districts, and it modifies our school resource officer agreement to add some funding from the school that is being partnered with the city funding. I think it's $20,000 apiece, and then we are matching that with some state grant money, and that is to partner with APHIS to provide some a diversionary program, kind of an anti-violence youth diversionary program where we work with youth that may be at risk in the community, try to divert them from entering into the criminal justice system and focus them more on positive outcomes, and try to do that at the young age, try to do that at the junior high age, and we felt between our agencies that APHIS was a good resource for doing that. So this will help them put in some, I don't want to say an extra person, but some extra personnel time so they can really be engaged with these kids that before they choose a life of bad behavior, might be a euphemism, but violence and things like that. Try to intervene to more positive outcomes. So.
Okay. All right.
Cool project. I mean, it's really cool that it came together with the school district on board, City of Fort Dodge Police Department's on board, working with an organization like APHIS that's been established in this community, and then we got focused. That was great that we got some state funding that was basically spearheaded by the Juvenile Corrections office here locally. So. Coming together, we started it last spring, but now this fiscal year we're kicking it off with full funding.
Well, all right, David, you did get something done.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
Thanks.
Well, remember, next week you can come in here.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, David Fricks, the city manager, he's been our guest. Thank you, David.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Take care.
You too. This is AM 1400. KVFD, the voice for Dallas.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
428, the news is coming up.
David Horowitz's new book about President Trump is out. It's called Blitz. In Blitz, Horowitz warns that Antifa wants to stop Trump and crush our freedoms. Blitz predicted that race would be a big issue, but Trump has a secret plan for the election. Mike Huckabee says if everyone reads Blitz, Trump will win. A #1 Amazon bestseller. Get Blitz at bookstores or get the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to blitz411.com. Blitz411.com.
We all need a little help sometimes.
Lifelong Links connects older Iowans who need assistance with living independently.
During these challenging times, you may find yourself in need of a little assistance in order to remain healthy and safe in your home. Lifelong Links from the Iowa Department on Aging will connect you to available resources such as food, meals, personal care, or just someone to talk with.
Please call 866-468-7887 and you will receive a supportive response to help navigate these uncertain times together.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. An inmate at the Fort Dodge Correctional Facility has been charged with first-degree murder. On June 14th, 59-year-old Thomas Andrew Dulesky was found dead in his cell. Dulesky was serving a 45-year sentence for multiple charges related to sexual abuse and lascivious acts with a child. He had been incarcerated since 2000. Officials have released findings in the subsequent investigation, and they say that 44-year-old Eric Hall had been inside Dulesky's cell just prior to his body being found. Officials say Hall has admitted to killing Dulesky and is charged with first-degree murder here in Webster County. The autopsy determined Dulesky's cause of death to be strangulation with blunt force injuries to the head and was ruled a homicide. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. Unity Point Health Fort Dodge has started to ease visitor restrictions. A statement released by Unity Point Health Fort Dodge Monday morning says as the number of COVID restrictions lift across Iowa, Unity Point Health Fort Dodge believes we have the appropriate safety measures in place to keep our patients and staff safe while easing visitor restrictions. The following considerations are now in place for visitors. For clinical appointments, 1 visitor for adults and 2 visitors for pediatrics will be allowed. Adult inpatients will be allowed 1 visitor or support person at a time. Pediatric patients, 2 parents or guardians at a time. In the ER, 1 visitor or support person will be allowed, and that person must stay in the room. For surgical and procedural patients, patients will be allowed 1 visitor for outpatient surgeries. That visitor will have to remain in the patient's room during surgery. For end-of-life patients, 2 visitors or support people are allowed around the clock. They are encouraged to stay in the room. At the hospice house, 2 visitors total in a 24-hour period will be allowed. Clergy will be allowed for patients requesting clergy visitation for spiritual support, and in-person interpreters are permissible if deemed important for patient communication. For more information, go to unitypoint.org. In sports, St. Edmunds softball fell 5-3 at 9th-ranked Algona last night. Bulldogs scored 3 in the third to take the win. Cameron Etherington, the winning pitcher for Algona, throwing a complete game, striking out 10. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmunds. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. That's your Alpha Media News Update from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn down 3 1/4 at $3.25. September down 4 cents at $3.29. December corn down a nickel at $3.36 3/4. March down 4 3/4 at $3.48 3/4. July soybeans down 1 1/4 at $8.75. August down 3 cents at $8.72. September down 4 1/4 at $8.69 1/2. November down 5 1/4 at $8.74. July wheat closed up a penny at $4.86. Soybean meal down 20 cents a ton at $2.86.30. June live cattle down 87 cents at $93.52. August up $2.07 at $97.20. August feeder cattle up $1.45 at $133.20. September up $1.40 at $134.47. July lean hogs closed up 7 cents at $46.90, and August up $1.40 at $52.50. From the Alpha Media Farm Desk, I'm Dwayne Murley.
Helping pollinators help you. Hello everyone, I'm Rhiannon Branch with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. This is National Pollinators Week, a week dedicated to bring awareness to the role pollinators play for agriculture and the environment. In this Managing for Profit, a pollinator expert will highlight adjustments farmers can make to their management practices to support pollinators and their habitats. More after this on Brownfield.
Want to have one more drink?
Sure.
Want to close down the bar?
Woo, yep.
You don't feel that drunk. Want to drive home?
Okay.
Want to possibly kill someone or yourself?
Wait, no.
Then leave your car at the bar and find a different ride home. You know there are apps for that now, right?
Yeah, I do.
With so many options out there for alternate transportation, why take the risk of driving impaired? You can worry about getting back to your car after you've sobered up. This message brought to you by the Iowa Department of Public Safety, Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau.
Every growing season brings challenges.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Could you call me back in about 5 minutes?
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Or visit nutrienagsolutions.com.
Lauren Lurkins is the Director of Environmental Policy for Illinois Farm Bureau. She tells Brownfield pollinators play an important role in agriculture, and farmers play an equally important role in preserving pollinator habitat.
We do have certain aspects of our agricultural industry that rely on pollination, certain crops, and they need bees to be able to do that for them. But the largest effort, I think, particularly when we look at row crop, is how all of the facets of agriculture can really have to coexist. So I think it's really important for people in an urban setting or people who are more maybe prone to thinking about our natural lands to know that agriculture also plays a role in either adding additional habitat to support pollinators with a variety of nectar sources. For the monarch, it is milkweed, but we do talk about pollinator habitat with multiple types of flowering and nectar sources. So what's happening is in the agricultural space, row crop production, you're finding a lot of places where habitat is either being added for the first time or it's being improved upon to be able to kind of reflect that science that's happening as we learn more about how to protect certain species.
She says farmers need to maintain those habitats and consider how other management practices impact pollinators.
We focus quite a bit of this on the implementation of putting habitat in the ground. It takes management of that. It's not just plant it and walk away. And so we do know that that is geared at, a lot of rules through either the NRCS most likely or whatever program people decide to go through. So the habitat has to be maintained. In addition, if you're looking at mowing practices or you're looking at your application of, say, a pesticide product along the side of that habitat, you want to do that at a time and in a manner that reduces the drift and ultimately the impact to the habitat. And so we have quite a few resources on our website, particularly with regard to mowing. Mowing the roadsides, thinking about the best time to mow roadsides, and we've got some guidance on the website here at Illinois Farm Bureau, www.ilfb.org, where we have information on our mowing practices.
That was Lauren Lurkins with Illinois Farm Bureau, and I'm Rhiannon Branch with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stocks finishing higher on improving economic data. Among the gainers, big tech companies, which powered the NASDAQ for another record close. The Dow rising 131 points, the NASDAQ up 75, S&P 500 up 13. And Apple providing the biggest boost to the Dow, with its share spiking over 2% after at least 3 Wall Street firms raised their price target on the tech giant, following news that the iPhone maker said it would use its own chips for Mac computers. And Daimler, the maker of Mercedes-Benz cars, is joining forces with chipmaker NVIDIA to develop car computers and artificial intelligence infrastructure for self-driving vehicles. Starbucks is debuting the Impossible Breakfast Sandwich in its stores today, along with 2 new cold coffee beverages. Starbucks also carries some of Beyond Meat's offerings. The new menu items arrive as Starbucks navigates through the coronavirus pandemic with lifted restrictions. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Your employees and customers have new expectations when it comes to cleanliness. Cintas has the products and services you need to feel prepared. A trained Cintas technician can apply disinfectant and sanitizer spray to common surfaces. And we'll keep you well stocked with gloves, face masks, hand sanitizer, and disinfectant wipes, professional cleaning supplies, and PPE. Just a few ways Cintas can help you keep your business safe. Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Your circle of care is more important now than ever. Mercy One is innovating to keep you healthy, including virtual visits with your doctor from the comfort and safety of your home. Visits are easy. During virtual appointments, providers can prescribe or adjust medications, review test results, coordinate additional treatment options, assess whether further care is needed, and much more. Call your primary care or specialist office today to connect with your doctor. Mercy One, your best life, our one purpose.
Anyone who builds, remodels, or repairs for a living, we know the way you work has changed. That's why Lowe's is committing today to build new ways to keep you working tomorrow. We are proud to introduce the new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered by Stream, an augmented video chat tool so you can be there for your customers without actually being there. And the cost to use? Try it free through October 31st at lowesforpros.com/proloyalty. Just one of the reasons why Lowe's is the new home for pros. Services subject to Stream terms. Lowe's loyalty membership required. More terms apply.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and I welcome to the program once again, and it's with a great amount of joy that I welcome Sherry Washington to the program. Thank you for being on, Sherry.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Thanks for the opportunity.
You know, it's great. You know, I really am glad to hear you. It's like our nation, or at least our county, turns its lonely eyes to you. I'll tell you, everybody's so upset. They're defensive. They're angry. On and on and on. Doesn't seem to be any let up. Doesn't seem to be any desire to let up. But a human being can only take so much of that emotionally without some sort of cause, without being shown some sort of cause as far as hope is concerned, love, joy. And I know you well enough to know that the event that you have planned tomorrow evening down at the City Square is an event to promote those considerable virtues, or if I'm describing it correctly. But please describe the event that you have planned for tomorrow.
Yes, well, all of what you just said, Mike, it's definitely something that we want to be reflective of positivity, and something that's going to unite the community. It's more for Juneteenth. However, during Juneteenth, the week of, there was just so much going on. So we thought we would give it a few days and kind of push it out to tomorrow. And also to kind of bring in the Stop the Violence mood with it. With so much going on with violence and so much, there's misunderstanding, there's sadness, there's anger, there's just everything. There's so much going on. And really, have we evolved from Juneteenth, from where we had the happiness, we had the sadness, we had the anger, we had all those things, and here we are in 2020, and we have basically some of the same things going on as far as emotions go. So really, we just want to come together and make it as positive as possible.
Now, this is at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening at the City Square?
That's correct. 7 p.m. at the City Square.
7 p.m. at the City Square. And what's on the agenda? Who will speak?
Well, we have Colleen Peace. She will speak a little bit. I heard her speak earlier this year, and she really connected to me with some of the experiences and just some of the things that she spoke on. And I just thought this would be a good time for her to speak, to speak her truth and to talk about her experiences and maybe be able to connect with some of the folks in the community on both sides.
I've heard that name before. How do I know her name?
With the Wellness Center.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I think she's definitely the owner or organizer of that. So,
okay.
So she'll bring that tomorrow. And we also have Barb Crooks.
Excuse me?
Barb Crooks.
Okay.
Yeah, she will do a poem.
Okay.
And Barb, her poems are just exceptional. So she really can tap into emotions, and it's just so authentic, and it's just for everyone. And usually after her poems, you really think, and it makes you self-reflect.
Okay. I want to tell you, by the way, and I know you've been traveling around a lot, but the next time you want to be on the radio, or I'd like to have you on the radio, you can come here to the studio. So that's going to be better than this phone nonsense, I'll tell you.
I welcome that. I will come in, Mike.
I'm not it's not that I've attended stock car races in the past here in Iowa, and I prefer the little dirt tracks that we have here in Iowa. I'm not much of a NASCAR fan or the big races that you see on television, where 80,000 people or whatever attend. I always thought that was kind of more a white Southern guy thing. And NASCAR has taken some strides here recently. When I watched NASCAR in the past, here'd come the Confederate flag, and I thought, rednecks. That's exactly what I thought. I mean, who else flies the Confederate flag but a redneck? So I wasn't, that wasn't the real reason I didn't watch NASCAR much. I just prefer to have the live experience. But Bubba Wallace, and I didn't even know about Bubba Wallace. And there's this huge information world that I don't know anything about. But Bubba Wallace is an African-American NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
Now, NASCAR drivers are very skilled people. I mean, they can make a wrong move and they're at 200 miles an hour and they're dead. And Bubba Wallace is a competitive driver.
Mm-hmm.
And at this week's Talladega, which is kind of the crown jewel of NASCAR season, some damn fool and horrible redneck racist decided to put a noose in his mechanic's garage. Now, the drivers, who are all white guys, other than Bubba Wallace, and a lot of them are Southerners, decided that wasn't going to work, that they were going to make a statement. So Bubba Wallace got in his car, and the NASCAR drivers, all of them, including some very famous drivers who were from the South, walked along the side of his car with him in a big show of support in front of the main area of NASCAR. Now, if they can do that in Talladega, Alabama,
Yes,
we can certainly do something.
definitely. And it shows where we're moving. You know, it shows exactly where we're going. And, you know, and it's not just a Caucasian, I don't know what term you want to use here, Mike, but it's not just a Caucasian sport. I enjoyed watching NASCAR. I think it was Mark Martin. I think he used to be car number 5 or something.
Oh, yeah, there's a name, yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome. And then Juan Pablo, you know, that's another guy. You know, that's definitely not a Caucasian name. So, you know, I mean, so you have a little tiny bit of diversity. However, African Americans, we watch it too. You know, so you know, I've watched it. It's not the most exciting race for me. I think they go around the lap about 500 times. So I tend to watch it towards the end.
I went to a big race once out in California, the California 500, and that was a big deal. But I'll tell you, the cars went by the grandstand where I was sitting so fast, I didn't know what was going on in the race. They were a blur. And then they go clear on the other side of the track, so I couldn't see them at all. So, plus I got drunk as hell, and it was really hot, and I got sunburned, and the next day I woke up hungover and sunburned, so it didn't work for me. But, if I was just amazed by that demonstration. And I was in a world where you look for good things because there's been so much bad stuff happening and depressing stuff happening. To have those drivers walk down the track in a show of solidarity, it was their idea to do this, by the way. That was really big. I think that's in the South and in the race car world to get rid of that Confederate flag, and I don't know why in the world they had it there in the first place. But to get rid of that flag, but more important, this demonstration by the drivers, that's big in the South. That's big.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I mean, I think that was a beautiful thing. And it shows that, you know, the hearts are open and folks are together. You know, we have more in common than we have separate, you know, so.
Yes, that's true.
You know, so I mean, this clearly shows that whether you're in the north, the south, the east, or the west, you know, people are people, and they're joining together against hate.
I hope that's the case. You're not bringing our Reverend from Des Moines up for the event tomorrow?
He will be there.
Excellent.
Yes. Reverend Rob will be there.
He can bring down the house.
Yes, he can. Yes, so he's going to speak and do a prayer. We have, of course, Charles Clayton. We always have to have Charles.
I have Charles in there.
Gotta have Charles. And so we have quite a few. We have Angela Davis. She owns the Angela's Hair and More Beauty Supply.
Okay.
And so we have a few folks. And Mayor Matt, we asked that he MC again. I know he did the visual. However, leadership, you know, it starts from the top and it trickles down. So if your community is together, your leadership's together, I just think that's so important for everyone to see.
Well, in this case, the people got out in front of the leaders, though. You know, the leaders have been running around trying to catch up. And it sounds like they're trying their best. But, yeah, these were circumstances out of the control of any authority. And these, I know that some of these demonstrations had outside help or whatever, however you want to say it, I don't know. But most of them just took on a life with their own. I mean, after seeing this video, people just came out of their house, which is really something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And we shouldn't forget the progress that has been made either.
That's right.
I fall back, and I've told this about 3 times in the last week. Bill Russell was a great basketball player for the Boston Celtics. Before that, he went to school in San Francisco. And when he joined the league, I think it was in 1960, there was only he and one other black player on the team. 20 years, and they were excluded from everything except practice and games. Now, fast forward 20 years, and Bill Russell is the coach of the Boston Celtics. And there were only 2 white players on the team, and they were excluded from everything except practice and games. And he called his black players together and said, this is wrong, this is what happened to me, I don't want to see it happen to this guy, it's unfair, these guys, it's unfair, so you got to do something about it. And the black players tried, but they came back to Bill Russell and said, these guys are just too different. We tried to incorporate them into our circle, and they just like different music, they like different food, they speak differently, think differently, they're just too different. And there is the crux of the problem. Somehow, as William, I can't remember the guy, but somehow we evolved in 2 different societies in a way, and neither seems to totally grasp the other. If we can talk about that and get by that, I think that's huge.
It is. It really is.
But
I hope that's where we're leading.
I hope that's where. I think that is where we're going, because frankly, among white people, there is a recognition of a serious problem, and I'm not trying to excuse myself from turning a blind eye to things, because I did. Okay, this is what's happening in the world, and that's just the way it is. But the video changed everything, I think. And so we'll this thing you're doing tomorrow night at 7 in the City Square is a wonderful thing. I'm glad to see you got the lineup that you have. Clayton will probably give us the Sonny Liston glare and scare us all. That's fine. Actually, I've seen Charles has been an important figure in our community, so I'm glad that he's taking part.
Yes, definitely.
Glad he's taking part.
Yeah.
So is your church, the Second Baptist, that's not, you're not allowing people into the building as of yet?
No, not yet. We're just being very mindful and taking attention to what's going on here locally, and we hope to soon, but we'll see. We're just taking it week by week.
Sherry Washington has been our guest. What are you calling the event tomorrow night at the City Square?
Juneteenth, Stop the Violence.
All right, Juneteenth, Stop the Violence. I'll be there. I hope you are too. Thank you, Sherry.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Our guest has been Sherry Washington. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer, I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Listen, I really want to thank you for listening today. I want to thank all my guests. It'll be a better day tomorrow. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Thanks again, KVFD Fort Dodge.
This is Gary Rima, the voice of the UNI Panthers, and you can listen to exciting Panther sports right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
There was no directive. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The nation's top infectious disease expert tells a House panel, despite what President Trump told a rally in Tulsa, there's been no slowdown in testing for coronavirus.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, says to the best of his knowledge, no one on the coronavirus task force has been told to slow down testing. He says it's the opposite.
Also, much more surveillance if you want to get your arms around and understand exactly what's going on in community spread.
Officials with the Centers for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, and Health and Human Services also told a House committee that testing will continue to expand. Fauci also says a COVID-19 vaccine could be ready by the end of this year or early next year. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
A sobering milestone in Texas. It has surpassed 5,000 new cases of the virus in a single day for the first time. Republican Congressman Michael Burgess says people need to take precautions while continuing to go about their daily lives.
As you begin to increase the mobility of people, we all knew cases were going to increase. And I think the governor is exactly correct. You want to be able to counter any hot spots.
There are several states seeing a rise in the number of cases, including Arizona, where President Trump is today. Earlier, he toured a portion of the border wall. He's expected to speak with a group of students later this hour. Hundreds of people paid their last respects to Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta. The African-American man was shot and killed by a white police officer after a struggle in a fast food parking lot. A woman's in custody after fire at that restaurant during protests over Brooks's death. The FBI says the noose found hanging in NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega Speedway had been there since at least October. No charges will be filed. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking to cut costs and free up some cash on a monthly basis, start today with Pure Talk USA. Now, the average family of 4 is saving over $800 a year on cell phone service by switching to Pure Talk USA. Now, every plan includes unlimited talk and text. And by the way, it just starts at $20, so switch to Pure Talk today. Just dial pound 250 keyword Pure Radio. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dialed text from Pure Talk USA.
Hey, seriously, land ho, guys. Guys, land ho. Land ho, right there.
The tides can turn quick on the water. Progressive's boat insurance has you covered with Sign and Glide on-water towing. Get a quote today in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com.
I gotta say, this land ho thing, not very effective.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Sign and Glide coverage is subject to policy terms.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. An inmate at the Fort Dodge Correctional Facility has been charged with first-degree murder. On June 14th, 59-year-old Thomas Andrew Dulesky was found dead in his cell. Dulesky was serving a 45-year sentence for multiple charges related to sexual abuse and lascivious acts with a child. He had been incarcerated since 2000. Officials have released findings in the subsequent investigation, and they say that 44-year-old Eric Hall had been inside Dulesky's cell just prior to his body being found. Officials say Hall has admitted to killing Dulesky and is charged with first-degree murder here in Webster County. The autopsy determined Dulesky's cause of death to be strangulation with blunt force injuries to the head and was ruled a homicide. One of the people involved in the robbery here in Fort Dodge of a South Dakota man that left him dead has pleaded guilty. 17-year-old Tate Martinson pleaded guilty to first-degree robbery. According to court records, Martinson admitted to meeting with the victim, 28-year-old Mohammed Yoab of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in October with the intention of robbing him. Yoab was allegedly shot and killed by Martinson's cohort, 19-year-old Damian Chavez of Fort Dodge. According to police, Chavez claimed the gun he was holding went off twice when Yoab grabbed it during the attempted robbery near the Tom Thumb restaurant in October here in Fort Dodge. Martinson's sentencing hearing has not been scheduled yet. In sports, St. Edmunds softball fell 5-3 at 9th-ranked Algona last night. Bulldogs scored 3 in the third to take the win. Jossie Timmerman, a 2-run double for St. Edmunds. Gales on the road tonight at Manson Northwest Webster, a 7 p.m. scheduled first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7 and online at yourfortdodge.com. St. Edmund baseball rained out last night against Algona. That game is set to be made up tomorrow at Harlan Rogers. Gales take on undefeated and ranked Pocahontas area on the road tonight. Fort Dodge baseball and softball games at Ottumwa yesterday were rained out. Dodger softball will take on Ottumwa today in a makeup game. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Mainly clear skies tonight with a low of 56. Northwest winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. Chance for isolated thunderstorms. High temperatures reach up to 79. Lows dip down to about 58 tomorrow night. Clear skies and quiet. From the Weatherology Weather Center.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. Thank you for joining us this hour. My co-host is Christy Wright, #1 best-selling author of the book Business Boutique. And she'll be with me today, or this hour and next hour here on the Dave Ramsey Show, answering your questions about your life and about your money. Open phones about 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Christy, you ready for the phones?
Let's do it.
All right. Ethan is in Indiana. Hi, Ethan. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Christy. How are you guys?
Great.
Hi, great.
How can we help?
My question is for Christy. I was curious, how do I separate my side hustle money with my personal income and other stuff like that? How do I keep my things separate? And then also, with the money I get, how much do I put aside going back into my business? How much do I keep to the side for my material to buy, and then how much do I keep for profit?
Yeah, what's your business?
3D printing.
Oh,
I have
cool.
a 3D printer and then software to design stuff to print out.
Cool. How long have you been doing it?
I've had the knowledge for the software a long time, but I just recently got into 3D printing.
Okay, cool. So when you said, how do you separate the money? I know this sounds like a really simple answer, Ethan, but you literally just have separate accounts. It can be very, very simple. The tempting thing when you have a side business is to let the money kind of flow between the business and personal, and you're checking out on Amazon, so you throw a few things in the cart for your business, or you're checking out at the local store and you buy these things together just because it's easier, or you grab your personal debit card to pay for something. But that just mixes up the money, and it mixes up all possible clean record keeping. So what you want to do is you want to open a business checking account, and all revenues from the business go into that checking account, and all expenses for the business come out of that checking account. What that's going to do is that's going to help you keep everything straight, and then when it comes time to pay taxes and that type of thing, it's going to really help you do that. When it comes to reinvesting back into the business, Dave, I'm excited to hear about this too. But a part of that depends on your goals. Like, part of it depends on what are you working towards. Are you saving up to have an emergency fund in your business? That would have an amount that goes in for that. Are you saving up because you need to buy a new piece of equipment? You might be saving up for that. Or are you just in maintenance mode where most of the money is going to, after you pay for taxes and your expenses, it's going to be take-home pay? Dave, do you have a kind of a rule of thumb on that for percentages?
I think you're exactly right. I think the idea is, if it's a side hustle and you're just trying to grow the business and you can live out of your day job, you may invest all of it back in.
Yeah.
That would be fine. There'd be nothing wrong with that.
You're not
but
depending on
if you need some of the money to come out, you're working your debt snowball or something like that, then you could just decide a percentage. But there's not a magic number. There's not a specific number. Obviously, the more you invest back into it, the more you're going to grow it if you invest it wisely into new products, new inventory, that kind of thing. And obviously, you've got to put enough back into it to keep it running. So, for instance, if you're doing a hard product and you're selling that hard product, you've got to buy the next set of inventory. So you got to hold enough back to do that. And so you've got to do some accounting to do all of that. But it's not really that hard to figure out. It's just once you're making a profit, what are we going to do with the profit? Do we take it home, or do we need to take it home? Can we live without it at home? And in order to get the business to go up another notch. Also, when you're opening that separate account she's talking about, that's just a DBA account, doing business as. And so it's Ethan so-and-so doing business as Ethan's 3D Printing, or whatever the name of your company is. It's a sole proprietorship. You don't even need a tax ID number to do it. You can do it with your Social Security number. You definitely don't need to be incorporated to do it. So just simply open a separate checking account.
You know something I see, Dave, all the time, and I see this, it's really tempting when you're running a side business, and you hear this all the time, what's the difference between a hobby and a business? A hobby costs you money, a business makes you money. I was thinking of this when you were talking about reinvesting money back into the business. One of the things I see people doing when they're starting a side business, and it's really tempting, they spend money on the business because they, quote unquote, need this thing. They need a new computer to be a writer. They need fill in the blank with whatever it is. And they really don't need it. What they're doing is they're trying to buy this stuff, fix up this home office, have this equipment to somehow validate I'm really doing this. But what happens is they get in the habit of spending money on the business that's not producing an ROI, that's not necessary, and they end up not making any money. And it stays a hobby for years because they're spending all the money on the business.
But we got a real collection of gadgets.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not growing. It's not what you said. It's not putting money into the business to grow it. It's just I'm going to spend it to make it feel real. And I've got a new suit and a new computer, but I don't have any money in my bank account. No, we're going to treat this like a business. If you need the money to invest to create a return on your investment.
Well, by definition, an investment is not consumption. By definition, an investment gives you a return of the investment and on some. The investment. And that's what you meant by ROI, return on and return of investment. And so, if you put $1,000 into something, you need to get an extra $1,000 back and some more.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you didn't do that, then that wasn't an investment. That was just an expense.
Yeah.
And really, when you look at all your businesses, you look down your P&L, all your business items should be investments, not expenses. We call them, revenue or expenses. From an accounting standpoint, that's what we call it. But you need to view it as an entrepreneur as the idea that we don't have any expenses, we only have investments. John is in New Jersey. Hey, John, welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. How you doing today?
Great. How can Christy and me help?
Hi. So I am a 23-year-old working right outside the New York City area. I've saved about $30,000 within my first year on the job, especially with the coronavirus. And my question for the two of you is, what is a good baseline saving until moving out to rent, as rents have steadily dropped outside of New York and in the Hoboken, Jersey City area? So my question is to continue to save or take advantage of dropping rent prices throughout the area.
Go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of the questions I feel like we get are around values. Like, what are your goals? What are you trying to work for? Some of this is a little bit, on you, John, of what are you working on right now? What are your goals?
So I am. I have two jobs. I work as a financial advisor for a bank where I take home majority of my income, and then I coach on the side, where I make about $10K coaching, about $50K being a financial advisor. Long-term goals is to eventually buy an apartment building, but that down payment for a mortgage is a little bit off of the $30,000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, you've done really good with the $30,000. Congratulations, and you've done that really fast. There is something that happens developmentally when you get out and pay your own bills. You're a sharp dude. You got your act together. You got really solid skills. You've saved $30,000. You've got a good solid job. You got a side hustle. You got everything going. You got everything going for you. But the next step of your personal emotional evolution is to be on your own. If you were my son, I'd tell you to move out right now. Not because I don't like you, but because I do. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. Hey, folks, it's time to pay attention. Thanks to the $2 trillion stimulus package, your HSA dollars are more flexible than ever. Consider how much you spend on things like pain relievers and cough syrup. Now imagine paying for all that with pre-tax money. No payroll tax, no income tax. Do the math. It means serious savings. But you need an HSA to unlock those savings. Talk to your employer and head over to healthequity.com.
We've all gone through some tough times recently, and many of you are really hurting right now. You might be jobless, you might be broke, and everyone is left saying, "What now?" We have the answer. Join me, Dave Ramsey, and Rachel Cruz on June 25th for a special free live stream event called What Now? Take Control of Your Money. Text CONTROL to 33789 to sign up for the event. Again, that's 33789.
Let's talk taxes. A lot of things in life have high levels of difficulty, and when you're not an expert, you can really mess it up. Tax filing is one of those. If you just have a W-2, it's pretty easy. With a little bit of knowledge, you can do your own taxes. But when you start adding things like side hustles, real estate, and investments, you can wind up making mistakes that cost you a lot of money. At that point, it's better to work with a tax advisor, like one of our tax-endorsed local providers. For 20 years, our ELP program has been matching people like you with qualified tax advisors in your area. These are people that my team has vetted. They have the heart of a teacher and a track record of success. If you're not sure if you should be using a tax advisor, take our free tax filing quiz. You answer a few questions, and we'll tell you the smartest tax filing method for you. Go to DaveRamsey.com/tax quiz. That's DaveRamsey.com/tax quiz.
Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson. A small stretch of cold weather going to keep sweet corn from being available by the 4th of July this year. Mike Peanut grows sweet corn near Carlisle and says his first corn will likely be ready the week after the holiday.
Somewhere between the 8th, 10th, 12th of July, somewhere in those days right in there. It's kind of open still to how the heat comes along.
It says a cold snap in late April slowed the growth of the corn, and that's why it won't be ready by the 4th. Iowa State University says nearly 5,000 accounts received racist emails that were said to be from Equity Prime Mortgage. Schools said a vast majority were faculty or staff accounts. They also learned other schools across the country were targeted. ISU police are working with the FBI to determine the source of that cyber attack. State website shows there have not been any coronavirus deaths since before Saturday. There are now 688 deaths in the state out of 26,343 confirmed cases. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
We all need a little help sometimes.
Lifelong Links connects older Iowans who need assistance with living independently.
During these challenging times, you may find yourself in need of a little assistance in order to remain healthy and safe in your home. Lifelong Links from the Iowa Department on Aging will connect you to available resources such as food, meals, personal care, or just someone to talk with.
Please call 866-468-7887 and you will receive a supportive response to help navigate these uncertain times together.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Place with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Kids are full of energy, but keeping them active in their teen years can be a challenge. Aim for an hour of physical activity every day. If they like sports, that's a great place to start. Keep the focus on fun, not winning, and encourage your child to do a variety of activities. If your child isn't meeting that 60-minute goal, gradually increase their activity in ways they enjoy. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org.
Christy Wright, Ramsey personality, my co-host today here on the Dave Ramsey Show. Carol is up next in New Jersey. Hey, Carol, welcome to the show. How can we help? Carol? Carol, 321, you're gone. Okay, up next is Jesse in Michigan. Hey, Jesse, how are you?
Hi. Oh, I'm just great.
Good. How can we help?
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
So I have a hobby farm in Michigan, and we are now just starting with 4 pigs and 3 goats, and just thinking about starting it up as like a business for us, and I have no idea where to start. I have no idea.
Why do you want it to be a business?
Well, we're thinking about like becoming a pig breeder. I mean, especially with COVID right now, people are kind of freaking out about where they're getting their food from. We have some chickens that are layers and a couple meat birds as well. But we're just kind of thinking about being a little business here in West Michigan for local people to know where their food is coming from. So I don't know.
Okay.
My husband and I were just talking about it, and we're like, well.
So what's your question then?
Like, where do I even start with coming up with a business plan, or like, I mean, the legality of everything as far as like taxes and everything. I mean, I feel like actually like doing the animals and working with them, that's the easy part. It's more or less the organization of the business and whatnot, because I'm a teacher, so I have no idea how that all works.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Jesse, and this is interesting because I hear this from a lot of people regardless of the business. It feels to you like the business stuff is probably 95% of running the business, and the actual farm part, that easy stuff, like you said, is 5%, because that is the stuff you don't know. So it feels big, it feels consuming, it feels overwhelming. Ask anyone running a business, and it's more like that's the 5%. Like, you need to know have your setup, you need to have your taxes and you need to do that. You need to get organized for sure. But the day-to-day, the quote-unquote easy stuff, like you said, that's actually 95% of it once you get going. So I just want to encourage you that it only feels overwhelming because you don't know it. But once you get some of that in order, cover your bases, get set up, some basic things that you need to do, running the business is the fun stuff. That's why you want to do it. I want to send you my book, which is Cover to Cover, a plan to start your business. But a good starting point to answer your question, you need to figure out what you're going to do. So what is the service you're going to provide? What is the product you're going to sell? If it's pigs, if it's chickens, whatever. Farming has a lot of different ways to make money. And so you've got a lot of options, but that can be paralyzing. So what I want you to think about is, what is the starting version of this farm for you? What is the thing that you know the most, that's the easiest, you could do it tomorrow, you don't have to do a ton of research on it, and maybe it's the pigs, maybe it's the chickens, maybe it's something else, maybe it's crops, I don't know, but I would figure out what you want to do.
You have what you've described is not your mission for the business. You've described a need in the marketplace that you've recognized. You have not described how you're going to serve it. You recognize that because of COVID and standard distribution methodologies are screwed up. There's a beef shortage right now. The supply chains are broken, and people are worried about all the processing and where the meat has been and all of that. And so a farm to table, not for restaurants but for homes, is a very popular need right now, and a felt need that people are going to react to. That's the need that you've recognized, and I agree with you on the need. Now, the question is, how are you going to serve that need? It could be with a singular line. It could be pork only. It could be meat birds only. It could be we're going to do two things, but you're not going to raise cattle, pigs, and chicken and meat birds and layers all at the same time from where you're starting right now. You got 6 animals right now. So don't get spread so thin that you're an inch deep.
Yeah, just pick one. And that's what we say in any kind of business, though, Dave. It's like, start small. Start with your 1.0 version of that idea. You might have a dream.
What's the low-hanging fruit?
Yeah.
What's the easiest thing to start with? Which one of these animals can you scale with the fastest and the easiest and turn into money?
What's going to happen is, when you do that, when you pick one, when you have focus and you start doing it, you're going to learn a lot in the process from the market, what you need to do more of, less of, where you're going to make mistakes, that type of thing. You're going to learn a lot, but you're also going to get confidence. When you start getting orders and you start getting money coming in, it builds your confidence to go after these other product lines or service lines, to try something new. Not just the learnings and the experience, you're also taking with you the confidence built by the fact that you're getting validation from the marketplace. That's a powerful combination, but it only happens that way when you start small and have focus. So I love how you said pick one thing, dial that in, figure it out, and before you start expanding and doing other things.
Yeah, don't try to do 6 things at once and do them all small, and have all that learning at one time.
And that's not just
Your
for
head
farm
will
business.
explode.
That's any business. I don't care if you're in a tech company. Don't start with 15 different apps. Start with one app. Start with one thing and focus and get that right before you expand.
Joshua is with us. Joshua is in Pennsylvania. Hi, Joshua. How are you?
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Great. How can we help?
All right, so I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm in high school right now, so I'm going into my senior year. And as of now, I'm doing whatever I can to earn money in order to pay for college. But the main issue right now is I've only made $21, and that's online. And so what is your advice for me? Like, what do I have to do in order to make enough money to pay for college?
Well, what you're doing isn't doing it.
What are you doing that made $21?
I mean, right now I'm just finding stuff I can do online. Since, I can't get a job because of COVID.
Well, you can get a job. You can do something that makes money. Like, people are making money right now. Like, I want to challenge that you can't